Alright, should be going live. Wait to hear my voice. Wait to hear my voice, the favorite part of the stream where I wait to hear sound.
Back.
What up, dude? I'm just killing time while I wait for YouTube to catch up so I can make sure there's no audio issues or anything. Alright, looks like it's working okay. My voice is a little quiet, so I'll bump myself up. Alright, Eumaies will be along eventually. For now, we have our other guest, so it will be sort of a high council today between Logic_EU, a recent Twitch personality, but a more long-standing YouTube personality. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am good. I just hosted an Anticity tournament and got my butt kicked. So
nice. I always like those.
It's always great. It's
always a fan favorite when you get your ass whooped.
Pretty
on live
much.
stream.
Hey, Logic.
Yo.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, man. Good, thank you.
There's the second voice. That is, and correct me if I'm getting this not wrong, because your name is mostly vowels. That is RTK Eumaies.
Yeah, that's pretty good. There's no correct way because it's not a real word.
Gotcha. All right, we still have questions streaming in because dwarves are a very cult-like faction, so their fans are very eager for this interview, and Logic also has his own fan base. So there's two fan bases colliding to give us over 100 questions.
Wow.
For anybody out there who doesn't know, I also already explained to these two gentlemen, this is a come-and-go environment. Both are very busy for different reasons. Logic, it's late at night. Eumaies is a father. So if Eumaies comes and goes, don't worry about it. We have Logic here. We have myself. I also play dwarves. We got you.
Woohoo.
All right, let's get right into it. First question I ask everybody for every faction: what are the worst and best three matchups for dwarves? Eumaies, can you take the worst, and Logic will take the best?
Worst are Skaven, Beastmen, and I guess High Elves. But it's a little getting closer.
Wait, Beastman's bad? I honestly thought Beastman was okay.
It really was, but they got the new chariots and the manticores, and now I think it's pretty tough.
Oh, interesting. I mean, I suppose even with the Cav beta fixes and stuff, still pretty bad, huh?
Well, that doesn't help dwarves, right?
I suppose, but the tusk scores can't stack on top of each other.
Oh, yeah. The chariots aren't horrible, but they're still cheap. AP chariots, they go through units pretty easily. I'd say it's pretty hard to prepare for them, but
Yeah.
curious what other people see.
All right. Well, Logic, what are the good ones?
Well, this is a tough one because I think that the community is ever evolving. But I think if you go with the standard picks, I think for example, Empire and Vampire Pirates, I think they're great matchups. I think dwarfs have everything they've got but better.
Mm-hmm.
And Britannia, I guess they're probably the three best.
Yeah.
I think an honourable mention for a worst matchup is also Dark Elves. I think that matchup is horrific for the Dawi as well. I think it's probably a close fourth. Yeah, I think I agree totally with Eumaies. I think that those are tough matchups, man.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with those easy ones. Although the Tomb Kings is a little confusing. They used to be really hard, and now they seem pretty easy. But I haven't played them enough to know for sure that they're really easy, like against the best. But they seem pretty easy too.
Would you say there's an even matchup? I can't really ever think of like a truly even matchup for dwarfs ever.
The mirror doesn't
Chaos,
count.
I feel, is even right now.
Right.
Gosh, where are all the factions? Let's see.
I would say, while he's thinking, I would
Greenskins
say
is even right now.
it is.
That's true. Yeah, Greenskins has changed quite a bit.
Huh.
Yeah. Greenskins has
Wood
changed.
Elves got harder, which makes it closer to even, although it's a little bit like
I think
guesswork.
it's Wood Elf favored. I think.
It could be. I mean, it wasn't last patch, but now that the anvils don't counter the ethereal stag knights in terms of their damage output, I feel like it got a little harder for dwarves.
I think also something to point out for the dwarfs. I think dwarfs is highly dependent on skill level as well, depending on what level you are in, like the community as the player and who you're playing against, right? So skill have a very quick skill roof to reach to a good level, but to reach to a top level, there's a very high skill roof to be good with dwarves, I think.
Dwarves are also, from the opponent standpoint, very hard to punish if you don't know what you're doing. Like, dwarves is definitely one of the factions that if two, let's say, I don't want to be a dick, but let's all just be honest. If two lower skilled players are playing against each other, dwarves have a huge advantage just because they're so punishing if you screw up. Like,
right, they're just tough, and they they have no healing, they have no magic. So once you do a little study, like how can I abuse them, you can take advantage of that. But if you're not familiar with sort of how do you take advantage of their weaknesses, then a newer player will struggle.
I think there's multiple factors as well behind the dwarfs with different strategies as well. Like for example, new players not using magic as much against the dwarves, which is still really strong even if they have magic resistance. And like mobility dominates the game now and for at least the longest period of time since I've been casting and since you've been casting as well. I think that mobility does dominate, which of course dwarfs do struggle with.
Yeah. But I was playing with for Poland and Grombrindal, and I'm not even a newer player. But if I don't know the matchup, like Vampire counts dwarves, I slap Graveguard with great weapons into Longbeards. I leave them alone, and I look back, and the Longbeards haven't gone anywhere, and I wasted 900 gold, like times 4. Yep. And it's just like if you don't have a good plan of attack, dwarves are just gonna sit there and laugh at you, and it's tough if you don't know what you're doing.
Vampire has to work so hard, but at the same time, once they're good at it, it's probably a pretty close matchup. Probably maybe a little Vampire advantage, but it's pretty even.
Yeah, it's pretty even. And I think Eumaies will agree when it gets to that top level of Dawi play. I think the micro gets way more intense, and it's more positioning the micro, I guess, but it's the ability to be aware of even like the smallest gaps of advantage, even when you're playing against factions like Vampirates, what I've played against, for example, like some of the ODM players where they use like dogs and gunbats and fast units they can get and just get into small blind spots, or they get into small crevices that you've left just a little bit too wide open, and then they're in that pocket, and then by the time they're in that pocket, it's kind of game over. So I think it's that full positioning and awareness constantly as a Dawi player that's tough between sort of that mid-level and then that top-level Dawi play.
I know Anticity is confident into dwarves as his coast. I've seen it on his stream many times.
It's actually more even than I think people think it is, because I played a lot against like Alfredinho. I do a lot of best of threes against him, and it's tough. He makes the matchup look even.
Yeah, I mean when you have factions with healing, summons, ethereals, like if you have a player who knows how to exploit those things, it's always going to be challenging. It's not like just easy.
Yeah, I think just anything that has mobility or a good cheap functional mobility is always going to be strong against the Dawi if they know what they're doing. Especially with healing, that just makes it twice as strong.
Now I know for Poland is in Poland, and it is a Sunday night, so he probably has stuff to do tomorrow. So let's get right into some of his questions quick, because they are also some of the most asked questions. Since Thoric came into the meta, he's kind of the only Dwarf Lord we see now. If you could buff an old Lord, which is not Thoric, which one would it be for Poland? Let's start with Eumaies.
I guess I'd buff Ungrim and make him a useful duelist Lord, because right now the Dwarves, if somebody decides to just goon your Lord, you really don't have anybody. Like the Ungrim with no items, Belgar with no items, they're cost effective, but they can't win a duel. Like you don't have anybody who the opponent really should be scared of. So I think that's one gap they have. But so many of their Lords just have no useful items. So it's just like you could pick any of them.
Logic, you got a different one or same one?
I think that some of the other Lords have some really unique abilities. So, for example, if you want a tanky Lord that you don't mind getting shot or it's really hard to goon out, it's going to be like Belgar. Belgar is like very good and has like some unique play styles that you can use against certain factions. I think the problem is that just Thoric has everything. Everything you need, he's got it. Even if you don't bring it, he has it if you need it. And some of the other Lords have such great weaknesses that it's just safer and always better to go with Thoric Ironbrow. So what would I buff? I guess, yeah, I think maybe the same. Someone to be feared, someone to be scared of. Maybe a more mobile lord. Maybe even bring a new lord in that could
Yeah.
maybe Vanguard. Maybe someone like Buckman. Someone that could really change up and chop up the Dawi meta that could make people not think, oh, they're going to go Onion or Box or
Yeah.
Rush.
Malachi Michelson on a gyrocopter. They have a weird tic-tac-toe style lord.
That would be really cool. That would be really cool.
All right. I think I would personally go with Grombrindle, but we'll get to him later.
Yeah, I mean, he's the least useful right now, so he deserves it the
Badly,
most.
yes.
Yeah, I miss him.
But then people used to hate it, so...
I know, but I always liked Grombrindle. I wish he wasn't so broken, but then they went completely the other way and just made him worthless.
This is not like a direct at towards CA or something, but it's sort of like when one lord gets powerful for the Dawi, their objective at CA is to just nerf that lord. And for me, it just hasn't worked with the Dawi. Just make the other Dawi lords more powerful. It's not as if those lords were game breaking. They were just powerful in the Dawi roster, but their approach was, well, let's nerf that, and then hopefully we'll pick some more of the other lords. Actually, what you've done there is you've just nerfed the entire Dawi roster rather than just taking away Flash Bomb, making Grombrindle more expensive. Was it really worth it? No, because nothing changed.
The one moment when we had multiple lords was when, actually before I think Grombrindle was unbreakable. He was a reasonably cost-effective, cool with a Flash Bomb.
Yeah, magic damage, right?
Thorgrim did his own thing. You had a Runesmith who could do some things before they ruined runes. So, like, briefly, and Belagar was cheap and naked, But, like, briefly, you had at least a variety of okay lords. But most of Dawi history has just been one lord, and then they nerf him.
Okay, so here's my answer. Buff the High King, because he's such a cool character. And the fact that he is so pointless in the current meta, it hurts me. Make him good, because he's such a cool lord. Like, just make him good, man. Make him good.
But if he gets below 50% health, he could have a map-wide buff. That's great. Then just heal him up after... Oh.
Flip it. If you actually flip that ability, it actually becomes really strong. And actually, you could see utilization from him. Because then of course, then you have to snipe him. But then he's a tanky character. Because otherwise, you just ignore him because he's got 30 speed. Like, what's he going to do?
Right.
Yeah,
that ability is a little... I mean... And one thing that made him weaker, I actually thought he's pretty good, but with Thorak, everybody expects an anvil now, which means taking a large lord is no longer a surprise. Thorgrim's kind of suffering for that, but maybe people will actually kill him now because they'll come prepared to kill him. I don't know.
Hank Cyrus in the chat, Dawi rely on... This isn't a different question, I'm just commenting on it. Rely on good infantry and range. They don't really need their hero core. That's true, but what we're talking about is not like make... Ungrim's so powerful, he's the best duelist in the game. We're just saying make him remotely viable so that not every game it's like, Thoric's coming.
Right.
Every game, Thoric's coming.
I heavily disagree with that. I mean, Thoric is now an absolute staple. Like, if you think about what Dawi lack, which is melee attack for most of their infantry, Thoric provides that. Rune of Speed with Rune of Doom just makes, like, Longbeard great weapons, or probably some of the best infantry now with Dwarf Warrior great weapons. They just become absolute lawnmowers. These things just chew through everything, and they take no damage in return. Just no damage at all in the early stage.
All the games I've played with for Poland and Grombrindle, they have been just beating me to death with that combo, and I didn't realize how deadly it was until they just keep doing it. It's like White Lions for the High Elves, my Graveguard with great weapons, we're all just getting chewed up, and I really needed to change my strategies to even remotely compete. It is brutal.
And it's cheap. Very cheap, very cost effective.
But I think maybe to try to speak for Cyrus, trying to speak for him, is maybe he means that we don't need like Skaven or Empire level lords where they're your carry. Maybe he meant like dwarves should be the faction that your lord is a support unit and you get carried by the rest of your roster.
Well, maybe. I mean, there's a cool skill to being able to be like, I can win without having a lord without any items. Like, it's cool to build a wide army sometimes, but you want the choice. And the main thing isn't like how powerful they are, it's whether they have interesting items that matter. So Thorax items, yeah, some of them are strong, but they're also interesting and like they have some range and they can do different things. Whereas like most of the dwarf items don't do anything. They're overpriced and they are like melee items. And like any lord, you don't have to give them a great item, just give them an item that buffs something interesting or makes somebody run away or, just something different. and it's just variety that you need.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I feel like I heavily agree there with that comment. Like a lot of the dwarf lord items or abilities are like dependent on their leadership. Like if they drop below 50% leadership, the item no longer works. Great. I spent 250 gold on an item that you can just snipe out of me. Like brilliant.
All
Like,
right.
I think
They're
just
not
give them
fairly
permanent.
priced.
Yeah, they're not fairly priced.
Chat's not gonna like this, but I just thought of something. What if, like, thematically, because all these dwarves, besides the Rune Lord, is like, I'm a foot melee character, don't stand and fight me, and that's all of their themes. It's just which slight different favor you want. Grombrindle in the lore, he kind of appears wherever the dwarves need him. It would be kind of cool if he had like an item you could take that was like a teleportation in a way, where it's like a blink effect, and he gets unspottable after he uses it for just like a little bit. Because that'd be kind of
So
funny.
make Grombrindle a 600 point summon item on the Dwarf Lord.
Oh,
Actually,
Like 3
though,
times. That'd be entertaining.
That would make it fun, and I think that's what touching on what Eumaies said with Thoric Ironbrow. His runes and stuff and all his abilities make him fun. Like for most generic lords, they don't do anything apart from just go bonk. They don't do anything. So bringing something fun like that to dwarves would, I think, bring a lot more people to play dwarves more often, for sure.
yeah, it is weird. It's weird, like the same reason people didn't like Nakai as a lord for the Lizardmen. Same with Grombrindle. He's not a lord. He doesn't walk with your army. He doesn't command your army. He shows up, goons out one specific guy, and then disappears. And the dwarves are like, we saw him, we swear. But in this format, he like, it's just weird. A ghost is leading your army. I don't know.
Yep. And it's also like, like Nakai has the same problem. He's not particularly great at what he's meant to be doing. He's very expensive with very expensive items and has a very niche pick ability, which can also be very much said for most of the dwarf legendary lords.
Yeah. Nick in chat asked, would you want to downgrade Grombrindle to a legendary hero?
No.
Yeah, not really. I mean, we could use some better heroes, but
Yes.
it's either way is fine. But I'm kind of used to him as a lord.
So
I think he's too cool. He's too cool to have as a legendary hero.
a million people asked this, but Stormrunner and Cyrus asked this specific version of it. How to make Thoric Ironbrow more in line with the other dwarves in terms of power. And let's not say, because the other dwarf lords are bad right now, right? Let's say to bring him to a healthy spot, because he's overkitted right now. What would you change?
I think it's only one thing. So the Anvil of Doom, or the General Anvil, for the basic Rune Lord, it's probably a little too pricey for what it brings. It could be like 50 gold less. The Thoric's Anvil, obviously, should be about 100 gold more. So, off of that. So, yeah, it's basically just the Rune of Doom that is a little bit overtuned, but his other items are just okay. The runes are okay. They're not overpowered.
Okay, so this is my point of view, and I'm going to say it again so that everyone can hear this. Don't nerf Thoric. He's the one thing that actually makes dwarfs playable and competitive. If you yet again nerf a main character to fill in with the rest of the roster, Dawi just become unplayable again.
Yeah.
And the thing is...
Sorry, you go.
Sorry, go on. No, go on.
I was going to say, that's why I tried to structure the thing as, because it was originally asked down to the Dwarf Lords, and I'm like, all right, let's not make him trash. Let's make him where the Dwarf Lords should be in power.
The thing is if let's say we take Thoric Ironbrow out of the system. If you wanted a lord that buffed, you had Thorgrim Grudgebearer. If you wanted somebody that brought runes, you bought the Rune Lord. If you wanted someone anti-large as a sniper that's unbreakable, you bought Ungrim. If you wanted a tank, you brought Belegar. You've got all of that. You've got all of that for Thoric Ironbrow. You've got all of it, all the runes. He also comes in with extra abilities. And I did a video on this, right? Which is that Thoric Ironbrow with his Anvil is just really OP. And which is why you will never see the Rune Lord. Because you pay exactly the same money for an Anvil that just does way more. The rune for itself is worth 400 gold. It's worth itself for 400 gold, let alone all the bonuses you get.
I don't think it's worth nearly that. So the rune... the High Elves have a similar enough item. It's overpriced, so I never take it. But if it was about 150 for that item, I would take it. But the Anvil for regular Rune Lord is overpriced because all it does is situationally hurt a mage. for 400 gold and give him some physical resist. But for a guy who's stuck at 30 speed, that's not enough. So I think you could reduce the basic price of the anvil, but make Thoric's anvil either cost more or have that item be optional and have to pay for it. And I think then, he wouldn't be OP at all. But I mean, almost every faction in the game has a quote-unquote OP lord. So that's kind of how the balancing is right now. I wish they would do a better job of balancing, but it's just tough to be like, well, you can have Ark in the Black, but the dwarves can't have Thoric,
Yeah. Now, speaking of Thoric, unless Logic, did you have more?
I was just gonna say, yeah, I think also like with comparison of the Rune of Doom compared to the Horn, I think it also has much more beneficial purpose for the dwarfs than it does the high elves, for example. So I think that just shifting around certain things in certain factions, making things more expensive or changing things is going to definitely hurt some factions more than it is others. So I think that they could also reschedule some items for other people. Like, for example, I think it's unfair that this one is unlimited, whilst the other one there for the high elves you can only use 3 times. If it was better cost and you use better, then it'd be a fairer system, right? But then, of course, everything becomes the same, and then everything becomes boring. So maybe a little bit more imagination. But yeah, I like the question. I just don't think about nerfing this character to fill in with the rest. Try and bring everything up so it has a unique ability that you can use in specific matchups.
Right.
Now, Cyrus asks, how good were the lords before Thoric, and did they get nerfed? Besides Grombrindal, because we all know he did. But did Ungrim, Belegar, and Thorgrim move? Or does Thoric just so much better that they fell behind?
No, all those lords were decent. I mean, they slowly got buffed by CA just in their stats. So they're without their items, they're okay lords with no items. That's just kind of boring, but they're solid. And I still take Belegar occasionally just because he's a little bit cheaper than Thoric. But it's just the complete lack of items. I've never had items that were either costed right or interesting or good.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's indirects, right? I think like Grombrindal got heavily nerfed.
He got heavily nerfed.
He got nerfed into oblivion to the point that you're just never going to pick him ever. I actually think the Rune Lord got nerfed to a point that he's never going to get picked, because if you want runes,
he take too much now.
Yeah, and also you'll just take a Runesmith or you'll take Thoric. There's no point taking him. I actually think Thorgrim got buffed because most of his items actually got one of his main items, which is the Great Book of Grudges, got buffed, which is quite nice. It's only a little bit, but it makes a difference. Ungrim didn't change. I don't think Belegar changed, but they just got indirectly nerfed because of Thoric.
Mm-hmm. But I'll also say I think Runesmiths are absolutely horrible. Like, they cost about 100 to 150 too much, and that's a factor. So if you don't need rune magic, but if you want it, you don't even have the option to get it at a good price now.
It's an arm and a leg to get it.
Lord. Like, you could take Belegar and a Runesmith, and that might be good in some builds if the Runesmith wasn't totally overpriced. But because he is, you're just giving up runes if you don't take Thoric.
Also, some of the item changes were weird. Like, I think that Forge Fire, I'm not particularly a fan of that. But if you just take one rune with a Runesmith with no Forge Fire, he's 700 cost. You're going to tell me that you're going to get 700 cost compared to, say, taking Thunderers? Like, not a chance. Not a chance, I don't think.
Yeah. Because they've gone through so many iterations. They dropped the Rune Lord and the Runesmith stats. They upped their price back when they had, a Rune of Slow. And now they took that away, but they just lazy, so they didn't fix any of their stats or their price. So that hurts the variety too. I mean, Thoric's great, but it's also that you don't have another option.
Mm-hmm. And you guys are already touching on it, but I just want to loop a question in here. Hammond asked, why does no one take 2 Rune Magic Boys, Lord plus Hero? You're saying the Runesmith just sucks too much, but is there no combination of, like, with the Rune of Speed is the melee attack one, right? Like, you could do Rune of Speed while it's on cooldown, Rune of Doom, and then Rune of Speed from a Runesmith, or is that just not a good idea?
I mean, it's totally the price. There are a lot of fun things you could do. You could have Wrath and Rune spam. You could have more slows. You could do it a variety of ways. You could use them for variety, or you could double down on a few strong runes. But at the price, there's no point. It just costs too much. You might as well take an engineer who has some good spells.
It's true, and I think that one thing you have to consider is the rule set. So if you are using the rule set, which is banner rules, you can't take multiple of the same runes. So you'll never see that. Whilst if you use fruit rules, you can take multiples of the same runes. So therefore you might see it a little bit more there. But as an average of what you'll see here on the competitive scene, half of it can't be utilized, whilst half can. So it's going to negate it, or at least negate it being seen quite a bit.
That is true. I usually play on fruit rolls, so I guess I forgot that that's different. Now, on the runes, it was mentioned a bit, and Eumaies kind of dropped a bombshell on us, but I'll leave that as a teaser because we'll start with logic. What do you think of the runes now since the rework?
That's a tough question. Good and bad. I think they're great. I think what they've done is really fun. Some of them are really needed. Some of them I think are a bit pointless. But in general, I think for the better. I think dwarves have seen some nice benefit from it. It's a really hard one to answer. I like some of the changes, like for example, rune of slowness is nice. I like the rune of speed, but pretty much they're the only two I bring. It's a hard one, really. I think in general, it's about even. Like rune of negation got nerfed pretty hard, I think.
Very much so.
Yeah, and yeah, even if not slightly better.
And Eumaies, you already let the cat out of the bag. You don't like it. That is shocking to me. I actually thought.
No, I didn't say that. I just said the runesmith is terribly priced.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I think the runes are really great. I think 5 out of the 6 of them are good.
Which one don't you like?
I don't like the rune of the armor one.
Oh, neither. I hate it. I think it's
Oath
pointless.
and Steel. It's not even well designed. Armor is already bad for dwarves, and then it's also poorly designed for what they would need. But 5 out of 6 is pretty good. And I think I use ones in different games. I think they each have their strengths. I do wish if you had some reason to take 3 or 4 runes, like maybe if it reduced your cooldown more to really invest in spells, then maybe you'd occasionally take a lot, so you'd have that like super runesmith, but a rune lord or whatever. But that aside, I think it's a pretty impressive system. I was happy with it, and they did a decent job with 5 out of 6 being useful in different circumstances.
Would you add more runes to the table for Poland?
I think
yes. With like a unique character would be fun, like a unique runesmith who has different runes. That'd be fun. I don't think you need more than 6 in a standard set, but
yeah. So there is a wide variety of runes that are in lore and a wide variety of runes that are in game. I think having unique runesmiths, you normally say clan dependent, but you could say sort of you could almost set them class dependent, where they have like specific runes. One might be towards more slows and like resistances, and then one might be towards more buffs, so like melee attack and speed, and you could do maybe
cool. Yeah, you could do Dawi lores. Yeah,
3 or 4 different ones where you have like, and a little bit like Dawi lores. Yeah, I think something like that would be really fun.
That would be cool. The other thing that's from tabletop that was amazing was runes you put on your machinery and your units. That's tough to balance, but I think that would add so much to the roster if you could do creative stuff to make your artillery specialist in different ways, or your unit specialists.
Hammond in the chat, I did message you back on Discord. I was going to ask that question after you're done talking about runes, but I didn't want to chop up the conversation. The last rune question I see here... Oh, there's 2. Okay. Butcherbird asks, why doesn't the rune of Wrath and Ruin do magic damage?
Because CA doesn't want Dawi to be able to deal with ethereal units? I don't know. It's kind of a bummer. It would be pretty handy.
It's lore-wise, right? It's lore, isn't it?
Lore?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I think because Dawi despise magic, right? So they despise magic. They despise anything magic. They refuse to learn magic. They refuse to have anything to do with magic. So for them... that's why it doesn't do magic damage, as far as I'm aware. They just will have nothing to do with magic. And being that it's a rune, I don't think runes are magic-based. I don't think.
But Thorak does magic damage, and...
I think he's got a magical hammer, right?
Gotrek's axe is magic, and the Fire Ring of Thori is magic, so...
But yeah,
in general, they
right?
try to make dwarves have less magic damage. That's part of their balancing, for sure. I think
Also,
they got
Thoric
abused a
with
little bit,
magic and armor piercing, which is something we didn't even talk about, just negates so much as well. The fact you've
exactly.
got AP, the
Just
fact
got
you've
what
got
you
AP
need.
on Thoric and you don't have AP on the Rune Lord, and you've got magic damage, you just nerf Gromundel even further. Yeah, that's another point I didn't think about. Also, when you put him on his anvil, something as well that people I don't think pick up enough. If you stack resistances with 25% physical, 15% magic, 40% magic, and 15% missile resistance. If you've got magic missiles, like let's say you take something from the Wood Elves, let's say you take Swish Shiver Shards, they'll just do nothing to Thoric. He's just so goddamn tanky with 120 armor. And
Well, he's very
135.
tanky, but he doesn't get
Yeah.
40% magic resist anymore. Like that was the old anvil.
Yeah, I've got it. Yeah, he's got 40%, I think. Yeah.
Physical, missile, magic is 40, but not
Yeah.
missile anymore. That might just be Thoric, though. Does the other anvil give that much? Oh, it
I
does.
don't know. It does it? Yeah.
Okay.
They changed the anvil though. It no longer gives map wide, so it just does it for the Lord. You think?
Yeah, it's just for the Lord.
Yeah,
It's not
I think the
map-wide.
Lord. I think the Lord has kept it, and the Locus of Power now has obviously just replaced the plus 15%.
I forgot about the Locus of Power.
The Locus of Power is actually low-key really strong if people forget. I've seen games. I actually cast a game between Alfredinho and Chosen One where his Castle Lord died with Beastmen against Dawi, and the thing that actually won the game with the Spirit Leech caster was actually that broke him was the Locus of Power. It
can be
killed the
handy.
hero.
I think it's hard to say it's strong though, because in theory, people don't have to fall for it. So it's a little awkward, but it's a nice interface. It's a good threat to have to worry about.
It's a great counter. It's a great counter against summons as well. I love it.
There's 2 rune questions left that I noticed. Killing Smalls, I believe we could all agree on this really quickly. Do you believe multiple runes of the same type should be banned? No.
Depends.
I don't think any of the runes are good enough. I don't think the runesmith so at the current state of the game, the runesmith costs so much money that if you want to take him for some double of the same rune cheese, I don't think there's any rune that's worth that nerf to your army. So I think it should be fine.
Well, yeah, so it's not worth
one.
doing. So it's not really a balancing issue. In terms of a fairness issue, there's a whole question. The bigger question of should double spells be banned is kind of like they ban all spells from being duplicated, but really it's just a few spells that would be a problem to duplicate. And so, just for fairness, it's okay to be like, okay, dwarf quote unquote spells can't be duplicated just because everybody else's can't. But obviously it's not really necessary.
Just as a blanket ban. But I think like Rune of Slowness could be something looked at, I guess. But like 3 slows plus extra slows from like the Dragon backs can be a bit of a problem for some factions. But yeah, like Flash Bomb. I don't know. Let's say if you could in theory take like double Master Engineers with double Flash Bombs and then Rune of Slowness, like it can be pretty painful for some factions like Vampire Counts.
Well, I think it can be people may not like the experience, like, oh, you just took a ton of slows and it's annoying. But in terms of balancing, I don't think those are unbalanced because you're paying so much to get the items. So if the opponent has any plan B, they're going to be fine if they can take advantage of the fact that you spent 3,000 gold to get all those slows.
That's true.
Yeah. And then Stormrunner asked, should runes count as spells with regards to miscast chance items like Circlet of Iron?
Nah, I mean they're runes. That's kind of the whole point. They're not, in lore, they're not as unpredictable and chaotic as magic.
Yeah.
I think that's the whole trade-off, right? If they're not going to do magic damage on their actual cast, then they don't deserve to do they don't deserve to take punishments from things that prevent magic.
Now there was Hammond sent me a question about Thoric, but then we'll wrap up Thoric because I think we've beat him to death. Since they're talking about Thoric, if the Rune of Doom was more like it was in lore, where you summon a Ghost Dwarf Warrior unit, would that be better? And he's not OP, like Celastra's Damn Knights Errant.
Well,
Well, they'd be ethereal to start with, wouldn't they? So
when you get a 28 speed ethereal unit, it's not quite as useful as a cavalry ethereal unit. I guess you could stick it in front of something into guards and thunderers, but not that I'm opposed. It sounds like kind of fun, but it's not as useful as some of the other characters' summons.
I can agree, and there is actually that rune does exist. I think it's actually the rune of the. I think it's the rune of ancient law. I think it summons a unit of ethereal. I think it's a small group of ethereal thanes. I think it's in multiplayer. Sorry, single player. So that does exist, I think. So see, I do have it. Would it be better? No, because I actually think Rune of Doom is it's only 16 seconds. And it's nice. It fixes a problem that Dawi struggle with.
Now, I'm going to flip over to some people-specific questions because we don't know for how long we have High King Eumaies. So just to make sure we get some of these questions out. For Eumaies, you've beaten Human Boy's Skaven on stream multiple times. I know he's terrible at Skaven. I just like confirmation Butcherbird. So let's just the brief discussion. I think my record against you is like 4-1 or 4-0 in favor of Skaven versus Dawi, meaning you're up 4. I just don't remember if I've beaten you once. Any thoughts on that matchup? Because it's terrible, but you apparently win it occasionally.
Yeah, it's gotten a little better even. Thoric, as usual, is helpful. Because one of the challenges of the matchup is Death Runners are so hard to kill. Like they just I don't know, it's like physical resist or something. Dwarfs can't hit them very well because dwarfs have few units with high attacks. And one of the keys to beating them in general is to get a charge off on them, like Slayers or Dwarf Warriors, the great weapons can get a charge and at least do some damage. But Thoric with items gives you another way to fight back. And so, things have gotten a little easier that you now have a bit of an option if you want to fight in melee instead of being purely reliant on gyrocopters. But it's still an insanely unfair matchup. And the main reason I think it's unfair at this point is the Death Globe, or no, the regular Bombardiers, Poison Wind Globadiers. Yeah. They're too cheap. Like any faction in the game, they delete their infantry for an incredibly low cost. It's not even worth shooting them. They're so cheap. So I think that is just an inherent unfairness to the Skaven shouldn't have that unit be so cheap for all their matchups. But but dwarves have it. Dwarves have a shot. The gyros are strong, and Thoric gives them some play.
Yeah, I've said it before on the Skaven thing, but it's just like, I mean, yeah, Poison Wind's too cheap, but the rest of our roster sucks ass. So if you're
they gotta improve the other anti-infantry like Storm Vermin and Doomflayers suck right now, but it's kind of like a lot of CA balancing right now for a lot of the factions is like, here's one great unit and we're just going to neglect your other units, and that's kind of a shame.
Yeah. Flipping back. This is for Logic. Don't take this the wrong way, but do you mispronounce everything on purpose now that it's a meme, Hammond?
Or is that for me? I missed that.
Yeah, it's for you. Apparently Hammond thinks, that you mispronounce some things. Do you mispronounce everything on your stream as a meme?
Well, of course he's American, right? So us British have different pronunciations on certain words, but I love that. I love that. Yes, I actually specifically mispronounce certain words on purpose because I know it really bugs people. But for the majority, no, I'm just illiterate, so don't worry about it.
All right. Eumaies, this one was for both of you, so I can ask you each one at a time. What do you find most satisfying about Dwarf gameplay? That is from Way for both of you. Let's start with Logic since his question was a joke.
What is the best about Dawi gameplay?
Yeah, why do you keep coming back?
I love the whole thematic thing about Dawi. Dawi just don't run. They're heavily armored. I love their symmetry, holding boxes that are tight. That just, if you can play a game where you got a strong box of Dawi that just hold, and you can just literally. Now one of my favorite things I did recently in the clan war is someone came over to try and spirit leech spam me. I runa slowed the Marathi. Sorry, I don't think she. No, she did a. Soul Stealer, and I shot her down to about 300 health in like 4 volleys, and it was amazing. And then they just had to come towards me. I don't know. I love Dawi like thematically, lore wise, and just I love like the symmetry of the boxes. And I don't know. I just think they're great, and they got really fun units.
My same question at you.
Yeah, I like that they are an army faction. Like for most of Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2, where the game was dominated by, who's got the big creature, and you keep the creature alive till the end, and then it's like that creature just dominates and kills everything, right? Like it's whether it's a Shaggoth or what do you call it, Tomb King cats. But like Dawi have always been just about the army and the pieces working together. So no one unit usually matters the most, and it's more about how are you coordinating the pieces and how are you planning where they're going to go in relation to each other. So I like that. Yeah, just combined coordination of units, basically.
Contende asked Eumaies, do all entries in the Great Book of Grudges start with Dear Diary?
I have no idea.
I love that question.
Dear Diary, today some greenskins stole my settlement. All right.
I think it starts with grumble, grumble, grumble. I think,
Logic, with rumors that Sienna might get death magic for her next career in Vermintide, would that interest you into playing her? That is from Hammond.
With Sienna getting death magic in Vermintide.
Death magic.
I mean, I have the option of playing Bugman. Why would I play anything else? Let's be honest. I also love Bugman. No, probably not.
I also hate Sienna. It's my least favorite class. Of the 5 characters.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, I am a Barden Carillion player.
Exactly. Everybody plays Barden. Like, everybody plays Barden because he's super fun, man. And he's got some really fun classes.
How can you not use a flamethrower? When someone hands you a flamethrower, you're just going to tell me no.
Or an
no flamethrower, please.
Please tell me you've used the Orkan gun, because that thing, not the Orkan gun, sorry, the Trollhammer Torpedo.
I have not used the Trollhammer Torpedo. I did not buy the DLC.
So good. It is so good.
It looks very fun. Bob Tresh has it when we play in RTK. It's very funny. Eumaies, Butcherbird asks how to beat dwarves as greenskins. Now this is kind of, this is going against your best interest to tell them how to do it, but I'll leave that up to you. Would you educate the world on what dwarves don't like?
Yeah, there's definitely multiple ways. One way that's really strong is, I think, kiting. The greenskin archers have solid AP. You do kind of a high elf style play where you have a ton of archers, you have chariots that are solid, and Vindictive Glare and some force archers and regular archers can handle gyros. So kiting can be really strong, and then the flip side of that, I just think regular solid rushes move quick, and even if they have gyros, just try to run them over fast. Can work fine.
This is for both of you. We'll start with Logic. What is your most dwarven trait as a real-life person?
Ooh. What is my most dwarven trait? I have actually no idea. Oh, that's a good question. What is my most dwarven trait? I thought about all possibilities here. I did not consider this question.
Yes. That's from Venge, if I didn't mention it.
Oh, nice. Of course it is. My most dwarven trait. I remember all my grudges. Those that have come to displease me, I remember all of it.
I would say I'm a perfectionist, which is kind of like remembering all your grudges.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Me too, actually. Yeah, I'm a perfectionist.
Huh. Alright. Some superiority here, I feel. Perfectionism, alright. Dwarven. Meh.
Also, a common mislove, or mishate for elves.
That's fair.
Not a fan.
Logic, this is for you from Venge. Are dwarf players more secure in themselves than other players, knowing the rest of the community bashes them so much?
Oh yeah, I think so, 100%. I think like dwarf players are like probably, I think without doubt, the most they're the most sturdy of fans, right? You know, they never falter, they never rock, they never change, and they love their Dawi. I think they are the most like sturdy followers of their faction.
And then the last question for Eumaies. Are dwarf players... Oh yeah, same question from Venge. Are dwarf players more secure in themselves than other players, knowing the rest of the community bashes them?
I don't know. I think they have a lot of grudges, but they're kind of happy that way. So,
yep,
that's true.
You know, they don't forget who said some mean thing, 2 years ago in Warhammer 1 or something.
All right. Remember. Now, in case either party leaves, I have asked the questions.
Cool. I got like 10 more minutes.
Okay. We talked about Lords for 20 years. Logic and I can handle that. So I'll look for something spicy. This is a good one.
Give me 30 seconds and I'll be right back.
Okay. Starting with you then, Eumaies. What do you do versus Lizardmen? XMT Way asks.
Suffer. It's gotten a little crazy with them because now they have, the Arcs of Sotek can destroy elite infantry very easily. They've always had just a great rush with missile-resistant Kroxigors. They can also kite really well. So what do I do? Well, I have a variety of builds, but I tend to try to go wide. I'm kind of enjoying the Flame Iron Drakes. I think Trollhammers are decent too in limited number because you do have to deal with Arcs of Sotek quickly. And I think crossbows are nice and tough. You got to worry about chameleons now, even more than ever, and you got melee attackers. The general, I try to go wide, and crossbows and iron drakes. Sorry, what are they called? Yeah, iron drakes, not iron breakers. Yep.
Yeah, I do that every time too.
Nice.
Onion or box? Real human being.
Onion.
Onion.
I think that's just a different way of labeling things, but I don't consider most things boxes. I look at other factions playing, and nobody ever says, "Oh, that's a box," even though they're totally boxing. But I think the concept of onion is pretty much the key, and the difference is not letting all your guys get overrun at once.
I'm a box connoisseur. And then another question. I don't know that Logic plays with too many gyrocopters, so this will be for you. Venge asks, although Gyro Air Force is a threat, almost everybody takes counters to them. When do you risk an Air Force build?
You can definitely do a gyro here or there in certain matchups. So if you have a decent amount of ground, if you're against an opponent a faction that isn't easily completely overwhelming or ranged, I wouldn't take one gyro versus beastmen because even if I have ground units with shooting, they're going to get overrun. But versus Dark Elves, for example, not that strong at overrunning your back line, so having a gyrocopter gives you a little bit of push and pull, a little bit of mobility on the field, and so I think you can often just throw in one in those kind of situations. And it's definitely true that if you're just playing roulette and you want to just take 4 gyrocopters for certain factions, you can see what happens, and sometimes you'll win because of that. I don't really like that approach. Because who wants to just win because you got lucky? But it's nice to keep people honest sometimes. Yeah, I think it's faction by faction though. Trying to think of other ones. Empire, obviously you can use gyrocopters, but you can do anything versus Empire. Skaven gyrocopter is really important, and you probably want a bunch of them.
I like it versus Chaos.
Yeah, it's really strong versus Chaos. But I think you could do the key to having if you're taking just 2 or just a couple is to have that backup fire, and that's true for a lot of any Dawi play that's mobility or that's trying to kite somebody. You want to have what I think of as a daisy chain of range units. So what's covering your 4 deployed range units is your back range units. Your cannons are covering the rangers who are out front. maybe the Rangers are shooting and then pulling back under covering fire of the next line of ranged units. So it's like extended onion. But gyros are like that. They get most value if they're backed up by cannons or organ guns that are covering for them and making so the enemy can't just chase them down.
Logic, while you're gone, it was. Do you ever take an Air Force build, and when?
I actually take a lot of Air Forces, so much so that people prepare for them a lot. And I think what Eumaies said was actually really strong. Like, you do need to bring it sometimes so people do prepare for them, because otherwise they just prepare for the same sort of onion build. I think some matchups, if we're talking about true top level gameplay, I think they actually have some good utilization in some matchups. Like some forces like Greenskins, Norska, Chaos, they really struggle to deal with them. But they're by no means easy. I think they're one of the hardest sky forces to use. And they partner really well with like flash bombs, cannons, and even like some Vanguard units that have Stalk can really help as well. You can even like bait things, like for example, if you know they're going to bring like Harpies, or you know they're going to bring Fellbats. I actually think they're really good against vampire counts as well. I know a lot of people don't like that, but if you don't bring a specific lord, they can actually be really good against vampire counts. But yeah, I think it's true. It can be cheesy, and a lot of people call it cheesy. And with with due respect, I guess it is, because it is a bit of a dice roll. Because if you guess right, you win, and if you don't, you lose. So.
But I think you named 3 factions where you can take just 1 or 2, and that's Greenskins, Norska, and Dark Elves. For me, it would be those 3, where the battle's going to go back and forth. It's going to be somewhat long. They don't have great or completely deadly anti-air. You're going to have some ranged units on the ground to cover your gyros. And so I think you can sometimes use just a few as well.
I think they're great.
Micro, though.
They take a lot of micro, and they are very glass cannon, even if they have 100 armor. But yeah, I think some matchups are very good as well. I think something that wasn't touched on was like finding stalked units that may be vanguarded. A lot of people do that against dwarfs.
True. Some people take it versus wood elves, and it's not a bad idea to have like one. Can help you scout a bit if you're really on the ball with your dodging.
It's actually really good against wood elves if people go like full infantry push, but of course that's a huge risk.
Damn it, I just had it. Where did it go? Well, hammers is a good one. Do you think hammers should get buffed or just be fixed? This is for Poland, Butcherbird, Venge, and Stormrunner. And I don't know what just be fixed means, but I'll let you two run with that. Let's start with Eumaies.
So they have been fixed. That's been confirmed.
They got fixed?
No, you're kidding. They took away splash damage?
They fixed it, supposedly, so I've heard from higher up. They fixed it.
I heard a rumor, but every test I've seen doesn't show any difference, so I'd have to see some tests to believe that.
Yeah, so I was told that the ROR aren't bugged. Ones
they've always been good. So, okay, yeah.
But the other ones apparently have been fixed. But yeah, I'll let you carry on with that. I just thought I'd say that first.
I didn't even know what this bug was, so if you could illuminate people like me who have no idea what this is about, 10-second version, what was this bug? Or
no, it wasn't a bug. They had splash damage. They gave them splash damage, and at least the way splash damage used to work, I assume still worked, but maybe they changed it. It's just bad. It's bad at killing models, and because it's bad at killing models, you get hit more, because your damage is being spread out more. So I'm curious to test and see if they've actually improved somehow. But if they reverted them to where they were 1,100 points and not splash damage and slightly different stats, I think they were totally fine. And also with Thorek, they'll be even more popular because he's going to buff them, and they have incredible weapon strength. So that'd be my take.
The whole idea behind them is the fact that they're sort of anti-infantry swords with mass armor piercing. You could use them to roll over high elf infantry that's normally pretty good against Dawi. I think they have great utilization, but they're not performing at the cost point. And considering they've gone down to 3 models now, they're not performing at the cost point that they should be performing at. But no, I think I definitely the ROR hammers are still definitely a staple for me in certain matchups.
The RR Hammerers are solid, and they gave them a pretty decent buff, and they didn't give them splash damage, so they're not terrible. But in general, I don't think that Dawi are a low mobility faction. They don't really need hammers being more pricey so that it's more reward for just shooting them. I think 1100 was plenty, and you don't need them super elite, but they're pretty great with their armor and their damage output, and that made playing Dawi more dynamic because you could actually decide you want to crush somebody's front line quick and surprise them that way. And so it was a shame that they screwed up with them.
I mean, statistically on stat-wise, their buff was in theory better than the Ironbreakers, because adding melee defense is infinitely better. But I think for them, the extra melee defense for 100 gold cost, I don't really know if it's worth it from a multiplayer perspective when you consider you go up a tier with only being able to bring 3. I would have just preferred they get 1 or 2 extra melee defense and cost no different, and just in turn get a buff.
I didn't think they even needed a buff. I thought they were perfectly solid units.
I think also with Thoric they would have been very good. So, but the melee defense I guess was kind of needed because they got chomped really hard against like.
I mean, I think that was part of the fun of playing them. Like, if you want a unit that lasts, you take Longbeards. But if you want a unit that you're going to take care of it, make sure it gets a charge and doesn't get beat up, you take a couple of hammerers. So I thought it was a nice design before.
In the chat, Real Human Being wanted to know if engineers should be allowed their shotguns in multiplayer. They have a gun. Is it a long rifle?
I would be really cool if you could swap between the two. Feeling like a long rifle and then
that'd be great. I never even played them in single player to know that they have a shotgun, but that's amazing. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a thing.
They don't have it in single player, but I know, like for example, they do. I forget the name of the shotgun, but they have it in Vermintide and stuff. And if they could have it like a short range motion, because you can have it for the sisters, right? Where they have that shotgun animation for their spread shot that just deletes like hero casters.
You know what's more fucked up?
What's that?
He's holding his shotgun. His long rifle's on his back.
Yeah, I know. But like, let's say something comes in close, right? You could just shotgun rifle it, which would be really cool.
He's holding his shotgun instead of his long rifle, and that is some impressive accuracy, my dude. Also, you don't know how shotguns work by engineer friend. Okay, sorry. I've never looked at his model before. I didn't realize he.
Also, if you think about it for like Dawi as well, right? A lot of Dawi are so old school that they don't even like weaponry. So the fact that he has a shotgun is kind of cool.
Yeah. Hamid asks, how do you successfully kite with dwarves?
Flash bomb.
I guess flash bomb would be nice, but it's a little pricey. So personally, I think Rangers, you need to use the stock element, and then I think you back them up with artillery and maybe some slayers, and maybe it used to be slows, although the slows are harder to use now. But I think if you back them up with ranged fire, what you want to do is you want to attack an enemy in a way that they attack you back piecemeal or try to catch you, and then you can't punish them with cavalry, but you can punish them with your ranged fire. And so it's this little dance between, you don't want to get caught out and completely overwhelmed, but you want to pull the enemy out enough so that you can have more time shooting them with your artillery and other stuff. You can also have layers of rangers. Like I did this in a game versus Turin against vampire counts. You have one layer, and then the enemy comes out to attack them, and you're retreating, but your back layer is ready to shoot. So they thought they were going against 3 rangers, but they're actually going against 6. And then whatever they brought out isn't enough. So that kind of surprise can work.
I got into an unfortunate rule break once because I forgot Bugman's Rangers are still Rangers. So there's Rangers, Great Weapon Rangers, Bugman's Rangers, and then the ROR or something. But I had like 12 Rangers, and I was like, that's dumb. These aren't the same unit. Bugman's Rangers aren't Rangers.
Well, I actually have a question here for Eumaies, if that's all right.
Sure.
So, obviously, if you overcast a rune, the slowness rune, it goes for an extended duration for more slow. How would you prefer it? Is if we overcasted it, it became a meter radius, like the flash bomb?
Oh, that's kind of cool. Well, I just think the basic one is just so weak. The 40% slow is just so weak. So that's the real challenge. I think it's a cool idea if it was, more of an area of effect slow, or I wouldn't mind playing with that option. But unless something is like 60% slow, it's just not a powerful slow. Because
True.
because most things that you're trying to catch are going to be much faster than you if it's not 60% slow at least.
I mean, it used to be 72%, right? Which was really
Right.
good with the old flash bomb.
Yeah.
The new flash bomb's definitely a buff, though. I do like the new flash bomb. It is good.
Yeah, it's a nice item. Just a
And it's really good because
typical
it
package.
it sort of really works with the engineer, where the engineer can stay in the pocket but can still flash bomb, in that 75-meter radius, right? So,
Yeah.
but I think the rune of slowness overcasting is kind of always needed, but like overcasting is like never particularly worth it because you lose that now for the next 2 minutes, and most battles are sort of 6 minutes long, so you'd be lucky if you get 3 runes out.
Yeah, I don't use the Runa Slow much. I feel like there's certain matchups and factions where it's so important sometimes to trap a chariot and get it killed, or a lord or something, that you need the Runa Slow and you need to overcast it. But as a general rule, if I can avoid it, I much prefer to have just redundancy in my army instead of having to put all my faith in trapping somebody and sniping them with a slow.
Yeah, I just think Rune of Speed and Rune of Doom is just the most cost-efficient way to play him, I think.
Okay, I could get upset and go on a bitch fest for 25 years, but I'll just throw it in here really quick. The fact that I can't right-click on the runes and get to their spell page, that I have to go to a different faction, click on a spell, and then get to the rune page. Come on, CA.
You can cheat though. You can go on the right of the page and click on the right click under the unit itself, not where you buy the rune. I don't know why they did that, but you can get it under the tooltip for the character himself. You'll see it, and you can right click there.
One bugbear I do have with casting spells is the fact that all of the rooms are cast exactly the same way. Like, give Thoric and the guys somewhat a different way of casting those spells, man. Make them more interesting. Make them more interesting.
Also, I did check the campaign. It's a trait in your character that you can level up to give them a Grudge Raker instead of a long rifle, and it just changes their attack. But it's not toggled. It's like, if you level them up this way, you're stuck with it.
I don't know if I can share a screenshot, but I just tested hammers versus executioners, and the performance was not good. I mean, obviously they shouldn't necessarily beat them or anything, but I don't see the change if they fixed hammers. But maybe somebody will show it to me.
This is only what I've heard, right? So I was just told that they were fixed. Whether they actually are or not, that's just all I've heard. But
I heard the rumor too, but I just haven't seen anything that proves it.
Are you heading out, good sir?
Yeah, I gotta head out. But thanks so much.
Right.
This was cool.
Hell yeah, dude. Thank you for lending us some of your time.
Yeah, take it easy.
Later.
take care, dude.
All right, Logic. You want to do game 3 stuff, or keep going with units?
I'm happy to do whatever the guys would like to do. I'm here for as long as they need me to be.
All right. Let's jump to game 3. This has all been serious. Let's get some speculation.
All right.
Felix and Loopy ask, when do we get rune golems? Maroon golems.
Rune golems have the potential to be extremely powerful for the dwarfs. Also have the potential to be complete garbage. When do we get them? I honestly have no idea. I have no idea.
They could kind of go the Crocscore route and just end up being bad.
Yes. But then it could also be, like, just way too strong as well.
Rubber Duck Award just comes into the chat. Why are Lizardmen better than Dawi?
Why are Lizardmen better than Dawi? Let me think of an actual reason. Why are Lizardmen better than Dawi?
For anyone who doesn't know, they're roommates.
We've actually got dinosaurs now. I was going to say they have dinosaurs, but we have dinosaurs now.
Oh, that's right. Thoric's Expedition.
Yeah, Thoric's Expedition actually has the dinosaur. So we got dinosaurs as well, man. Why are they better? You got more dinosaurs. Why not?
For Poland asks, what are your thoughts about Ironbreakers? And I asked a different question, Ironbreakers versus Hammerers, so let's just knock both those out.
So,
Ironbreakers is just better.
I mean, Ironbreakers are insane, right? If anybody's seen my tier list, I think Ironbreakers, especially the ROR, are just mental. They are so goddamn strong. Like, I can even just list off, like, the stats now. I don't even need to look. They got, like, 79 melee defense, 125 armor, bronze shield, 2 blasting charges. They're good anti-infantry chaff. They're good against elite infantry. I mean, 79 melee defense. Like, a lot of that is paid for. Is not great, but it's very good elite anti-infantry tools. Like, they just hold for an absolute year. They are so goddamn good. They just dumpster elite infantry. They're amazing. They are really, really good. The only issue I've got with them, that the regulars don't have immune to psychology, but the ROR does.
That is, I am upset whenever I see an Ironbreaker terror routing. That's not how the world works. Ironbreakers don't run from shit.
The one that actually annoys me a bit more is the hammers. The fact that they route. They're like the King's Guard, right? So they should never run ever.
Yeah.
Like, Dawi are not known for running.
No, they run all the time. What? Alright. Back to game 3 stuff. Dawi on battle boars. For example, they would have mounts but still slower than all other cav, ignoring any lore. Hammond. Because in the lore, Dawi don't trust animals.
In the lore, they don't actually have any mounts apart from ambles. And I forget the name for them, but the blimps. They don't have anything apart from those, I don't think. I don't think so. Of course, if you go down the route of Lord of the Rings, yes, they do. But I'm pretty sure lore-wise, they have very minimalistic. And even if it is, it's very situational, I think. But I would love it. But it would change Dawi forever. Dawi would not be the same.
The world would never be the same.
Grudges would not come in boxes as often.
Yes. Oh god, we are killing so many Empire infantry. This is upsetting.
I think I'm behind. I'm behind on you.
yeah, I have a bunch of Ironbreakers just fighting basic Empire chaff.
And
sorry.
So good.
Are there are there any high mass units that would make a good DLC addition? That is from Captain Telis.
High mass.
High mass.
I mean, all of the dwarf infantry is high mass.
Go, Ironbreakers, go!
Wait, what? Sorry?
All my Ironbreakers are full health.
Yep. Ironbreakers are honestly disgusting.
They don't give a shit!
So for anybody that doesn't really know, with melee defense against melee attack, melee defense, as it goes up, it just exponentially increases, whilst melee attack actually exponentially decreases. So the fact they got such high melee defense, like most mid-tier to high-tier units just suffer at the hands of Ironbreakers. Just on hit chance, like they're just so goddamn good. But yeah, I don't know what you could really put in the game that the Dawi kind of need. Like, if you want huge mass, you just bring Giant Slayers. If you want to pin something in, or you just bring Ironbreakers, or I don't know. Is there anything I can think of? No, not particularly. Rune Golems would be really nice, as well as bringing in the blimps and all those kind of things would be really awesome.
Rune Golems.
Rune Golems, yes.
Okay, so chat's very excited about this hammer rumor, and there's both sides having things.
Come on, bring it.
Yeah, the Dawi. I don't know what is going on here. It's just I saw a test where they worked. I saw a test where they didn't. But Rubber Duck of War continues to troll you. What's your favorite Lizardmen unit to watch kill your dwarves?
Oh, my favorite Lizardmen unit to watch kill dwarfs. See, I'm a big fan of the lizards as well, to be fair. My favorite unit to watch kill dwarfs. That's a really cool unit. My least favorite is Chameleon Skinks. God, those guys are just insufferable.
They are the worst.
My favorite is watching it's got to be the Shredder. It's got to be watching the Shredder just run around in the back line and just doing the business. I love watching that. I just love the absolute nuptials you've got to have to bring a Shredder in and just let it go loose in the back line.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing more satisfying.
Nick's asking me if you breed Dawi and halflings, would the offspring be bigger than both parents, like rat ogre sized? No, I'm going the other direction. They'd probably be like miniature, like the nesting dolls, the nesting egg doll things from Russia. It'd be like that. God. They're just for some reason tiny.
I don't think there's anything in lore that's ever happened. I don't think.
No. Do oh, this is a long one. Do you think it's possible to get the Norscan Dwarves versus Norska DLC in Game 3 with Demon Slayers, War Mammoth, and Bolt Throwers? Berserker Slayers, but anti-infantry and a Norscan High King for Poland? I mean, my first thought is no.
It won't be immediate for sure. There is a tribe in Norska, as far as I can remember from lore. What I can remember from that, not much, if I'm honest. I know he has special tools to deal with the huge monsters, but I can't remember much. But it would be cool, would be great. But I'd much rather see like Bugman come in.
Yeah, Bugman would be great.
Bugman would be insane.
So from Loopy, myself, and Butcherbird, what should go into a Dawi DLC?
Ooh,
like against what faction? What lord do you want? What units do you want? The whole deal.
Damn. So, this is a tough one. What would I bring? And what would come in that would actually be sensible? I think there's a bunch you can do with Bugman, right? You can bring in, bringing in grudges, bringing in I'd like to see some more RR range units. I'd like to see some more variability in range because now we have so many good range tools. We also have some great artillery pieces. I think there's an artillery piece that has throwing axes. It would probably be terrible, but there is an artillery piece that just throws axes. So I think Bugman could come in with that, and he could bring in his own special ROR Bugman Rangers, maybe just have added armor or whatever, something special. Maybe they're duelists as well, because they're already pretty decent melee combatants. But Bugman, and then bringing in some more Vanguard units and allowing Dawi just to have a little bit of different style of play. Maybe some ROR gyrocopters, or just bringing something a little bit different, or adding some more changes to what we currently already have. Can I think of anything? I'd love to see rune golems, or I'd love to see a new reskin where they just bring in a bunch of blimps, where they just bring a lord that comes with blimps, and then you have master engineers and gyrocopters as a mount. Something along those two lines.
See, that's the one I wanted. That's what I was going to say if you didn't say it. Is I know Bugman would be great, and I'm not against him as maybe the free LC lord that comes with it, but I think the DLC should definitely be Malachi Mykosin focused. We're going to knock out 7 questions at once here, and I'm sorry if I do, but it's just how the conversation's going to work. Malachi Mykosin versus the Chaos Dwarves. So it's this fucked up chaos engineering versus proper Dawi engineering. And then the units you could add would be a generic engineer lord. You could give the engineer heroes their gyrocopter mounts. You could get maybe the Thunder Barge for Mykosin, but if not...
Thunder Barge would be cool, yeah.
Yeah, and then Hammond keeps bringing it up, but there are all these different Slayers from around the world. There's Slayer Pirates, there's Jungle Dwarves, which are weird barbarian dwarves. I mean, the story could easily be in the campaign map, you're going around the world in your blimp, completing different quests in different areas of the map, and then your final battle is bringing dwarves from across the entire planet to fight the Chaos Dwarves. And then you could bring all these different Slayer variants with he was talking about the Slayer Pirates are basically Slayers with pistols. And one axe, one pistol.
I have multiple answers for this question. So technically the Slayer Pirates kind of already exist in the game. There is actually a pirate ship that is run by dwarfs. So that is there, but they're not obviously Slayer Pirates. Mm-hmm. But at the end of Sigmar, there is actually a faction that is completely Slayers, as far as I can remember. My lore is not amazing, I'll be honest. I think, the Chaos idea sounds amazing. Engineers could really be worked on, and bringing them in as lords would be insane as well. Giving them some better buffs. What's the other one? Jungle. They've already gone with the jungle, and they've gone with Thoric with his expedition. But unfortunately, I don't know much about the jungle dwarfs at all. I've never heard of that before, but that sounds really cool. But yes, I think in theory you are going to be seeing a bunch of new things coming in Warhammer 3 for sure. I think we're going to see probably I forget his name. There's the undead lord. I forget his name that I'm sure that we'll see with Bugman. Oh damn, what's his name?
I don't remember offhand.
Nagash. I think we'll see like Nagash come in, and we'll see like Thoric go against not Thoric, sorry. We'll see like Bugman go against him or somebody big or something. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Not to steal Jeremy's question, but I said I would like the Chaos Dwarves, but he's asking you, is there a Game 3 faction you want the Dawi to fight up against?
Oh, yeah, Chaos Dwarfs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chaos Dwarves.
Yeah, I think, yeah, Chaos Dwarfs.
That'd be the best.
We talk about the Book of Grudges.
And Hammond asks, if there are Chaos Dwarves in Game 3, are you going to play them?
Yes.
I
will play them. I will play them. I won't run away from them, of course. But I think they'll be great. I think they'll be fun, and I think they'll bring a lot of the same gameplay that you see from similar gameplay that you see from the current Dwarves. Although actually no, they enslave quite a few things, don't they? They enslave different races, don't they? If I remember correctly. Yeah. Also maybe it will be different. I don't know. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be really great.
What new factions from Game 3 do you think the Dwarves will be good or bad against? Hammond and Jeremy. So let's say like 2 good matchups, 2 bad.
I generally think they're going to be great against Cathay. I think Cathay... Huh?
Yep, you see those flying balloons and you're like, cannons will take those out.
Yeah, I think, the cavalry as well in the sky looks pretty small in number, and, Thunder of Fire is going to do... I think they're going to be the same. They're going to have the same problem that Empire have. Dwarves are going to be more heavily armored. They're just going to be better in every ballpark. I think they'll also do... It really depends how they redo Magic, because of course Tzeentch could see some problems against Dawi, potentially. I think Khorne is going to be very good against Dawi. I think
Khorne's going to be very good. I think Khorne and Nurgle are going to be the 2 problems for Dwarves.
Nurgle will be a serious problem for Dwarves. I think will be a serious problem. I think Nurgle will be the hardest, and then followed by Khorne.
Yeah, because Nurgle just like it's so. I'm not super versed on the Chaos Gods lore, but from what I understand about Nurgle, it's just like dwarves but with regen, whereas dwarves are dwarves but with shooting, and it's just like, can you outgrind the dwarves? And if anybody can, it's Nurgle.
Well, if you, I don't know if you ever saw it's really fun actually. A great story from Jay Phoenix. She's now a legend. She actually bought the model, which is Grombrindle, Buckman, and is it Gotrek? It's a triple model that you can get on tabletop.
Oh yeah.
And she's bought it, and she's going to paint it. She's going to send me a picture of it so I can put it on live stream, which is amazing. But like for example, Buckman would heal them. Grombrindle would deal with all the infantry, and anything large, just Gotrek would just slam it, right? So I forgot where I was going with that. Yeah, I think healing is going to be a thing for the dwarves if we do bring in Buckman. He might have a 40-meter radius for 55-meter radius where he can heal with his Buckman brew. So I think healing might be possible for the dwarves, which could be insane. That will need to be balanced very hard.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you can click it as an item. You can use it to click on a unit that you could heal, like Norgrimling Ironbreakers.
Yeah. Nick in the chat just to acknowledge I saw it. Iron Drake's reducing the healing cap. I'm guessing you mean something about fire, but I don't look too much into the game 3 mechanics until it's out, or at least in beta.
So this is a thing that fire is... obviously, fire has a weakness for regen in the current game, right? So 25% or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. There are some games where they use fire as a complete negation to a point for regen. So let's say you use fire on a unit, that unit can only regen to that point now until fire is used on them again. Ducky says air cheese against Khorne. Yeah, I think that's definitely possible. Yeah. Yeah, I think that I think the fire application is fine right now. Yeah, I could certainly see that. What I'd mostly like to see, and this is like a little bit off topic for the Dawi, but I'd actually like to see some poison be done differently, a little bit more like fire damage, like where certain poison items, like with Nurgle coming into the game, seeing that poison can either be a resistance or you can have a resistance to the effect of poison. So let's say you've got poison warhounds. If they bite into something that also causes poison, they can either not have any negatives, or you can actually get a damage resistance from poison damage as a melee attack or a range attack.
Yeah, I would like for there to be a little bit more interaction with poison, where it's like there are poisons that are better than other poisons. There's poison resist. I don't know, like things like that. It's just weird that like all poison in the current state of the game is created equal. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
Some crazy purple snake in Lustria is the exact same as like a rat? That's a little weird.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either. I think, you got peasant archers at 450, which is kind of why they're also so powerful, the fact that their poison is exactly the same as, say, the Eumaies on barbs. It's not going to be the same type of poison. I think they can really develop that, because I think that might even happen with Noble coming in. I think poison is going to change as well, so... But Harpies can actually really struggle against Gyrocopters if it's done correctly. And same with Manticores, right? So if you shoot these models with big targets, especially even artillery shots, they can actually get flinch animations. So actually sometimes Air Forces can even be good against Harpies, can be good against Manticores. So they could struggle. Dear God, this is.
You mad, Duck?
that's amazing. That's amazing.
Rubber Duck's like this battle is heresy.
No, Grimlock. Why?
Just come get my lord, bro. Anyway.
He's getting well and truly... Yeah, he got cooked, man. He got cooked.
Yeah. Alright. Do dwarves need anti-large arrows or more slowing arrows, Hammond?
Ooh. So there's actually in the game, you got the Stir River Patrol, which is crossbowmen. They're the campaign exclusives for the Empire. And they have fire damage, and then they have slows with their shots. I think something like that for like.
Oh yeah, they do.
Yeah, so maybe if you brought that in for say like an ROR Buckman Rangers, or like as long as it's not massively wide accessed. Like for example, if you have it for the Skaven, let me just grab up the roster. So if you grab up the Skaven, they have their specific weapons teams. Where is it? Yeah, so if you bring in Rattling guns, obviously they have like line of sight issues and all these kind of things, and you pay for the slow, right? Mm-hmm. But if you give Dawi too many slows with their armor and their durability, they'll just become too strong. Just seen Ducky's question. But yeah, I think that I think having a couple of access to slows, like for example with the Dragonback Slayers, having one slow there is really nice. But if you had too many, it would become overpowered.
I can see that.
But they got a lot of anti-large shots, like Huntsman. We do actually have Iron Drake Triumph torpedoes. I think they're quite nicely balanced actually, Triumph torpedoes. But no, I think they've got everything they need. I think having a slow would be better. Yeah.
Venge is saying in the chat, I like the idea of slowing arrows, but what about attaching an effect to grudge throwers like slicky oil AoEs? I mean, maybe, but an artillery that slows seems pretty powerful. It might want to be a regiment of renown.
Well, there is one that's really nice with the regiment of renown. Its ability, the Goblubber, that has a negative 16 leadership. That's really good up against certain factions. It's also really good up against other artillery pieces. So that's quite nice. But having a slick effect. Do you know what would be really fun for the Dawi? If you had, say, an oil thrower that could throw into the front line of cheap chaff, and then you have, say, flame cannons or brimstone guns, or bringing in the Scolder Guard or the Iron Drakes that can then just torch that front line and just kind of get all that oil and the flame, and then just deal with that chaff in a long line.
I wouldn't hate for fire to be doing. I wouldn't hate for fire to have a poison wind type effect, but like more intense. Like fire weapons.
You should definitely have a Scold effect, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's just like, I mean, you're burning to death.
I guess we got negative leadership, right? Which is quite good. Which is burnt, which is not too bad.
Verberduck says, actual question this time: how would you like to see runes from tabletop represented in Dawi and multiplayer? I know nothing about tabletop, so it's all on you, Logic.
My tabletop knowledge is probably half of Ducky's, to be fair. There are a lot of runes. If we go more into game, there are certain runes in there that, there's a lot of runes that can be applied as well into tabletop. But I think the tabletop game is different. I'm not too sure on that. But in game, you have a lot of leadership ones. You have a lot of. There's a really powerful one, which is an AoE damage spell, or a damage rune, which Thorak can get. This is very, very strong. But there's certainly more application for runes, and I think if we had specific passives, if we have specific lore runesmiths, because not all runesmiths in lore have the same runes or study on the same lore, right? So if you could have different runesmiths with different laws, that would be better. You could bring a specific lore. You could bring a specific rune lore against specific factions. That would be much better, much more fun, much more interactive, instead of having two lords and a hero that all have exactly the same runes, right? But there's a bunch of great ones out there. There is a bunch of great ones.
Runes glow.
Yeah. So there are some runes that can be imbued on certain units. So for example, with the rune golem, you can actually imbue runes to it, so that it can sit and give meter radius of benefits. Oh yeah, that's nice. You got that up actually. Yeah. So there's a bunch of runes here that you can see that are very, very nice. Like the rune of fire is a very common one. That's really nice. But imbuing them to units would be very strong. I could agree with what Ducky's saying there. Yeah, bringing some in that you could apply, say, the rune golem, so it's really tanky, gives like leadership buffs, immune to psychology buffs. Can be very strong. So if you go into the skill tree, you should be able to see one rune that is really, really powerful. I can't remember what rune it is, but
We're here.
there's if you go into the where you can buy them, you can buy runes, I think.
Oh god, I've never played this campaign.
That's alright. So I think you were on it before.
Character runes.
Yeah, so if you go, there's a specific rune you can buy. I think it's down the bottom.
Here we go. Master Rune of Immolation.
Let's have a look.
Bombard area around the caster, most effective when surrounded, ignores armor.
There's quite a few powerful ones, and there's some that can do Mortar's Engine effect, which is really strong. There's some that can imbue fire damage in a meter radius, some that imbue fire weaknesses. But yeah, putting them on certain units would be really strong. Yeah, I think I would like that. You could pay for runes that you could put on. I'd actually like to see runes that could be imbued to units. Yeah, I think that would be really fun. That'd be really nice.
Oh, there's character runes too.
Mm-hmm. There's a Stromy rune. There's the Master Rune of Stromy One Eye, I think it is, or Redbeard. I think it's melee attack, and the passive is I can't remember. But I think the passive is ITP, I think. Or at least it used to be. And then there's one, like, for example, getting runes for, like, Vallejo, getting runes for all the Lord, or all the gods as well would be quite nice. Mm-hmm. And then, like, runes that could give you Stalk and Snipe, and, you could just apply them to certain units. That would be really fun.
Yeah, that would be, because you could buy them and, like, kind of make your own RORs in a way.
Essentially, yeah. Yeah, 100%. There are some that aren't so great, but there are some that are really great. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that'd be great, and I think just changing some of the items as well. I think although the Dwarfs I actually wasn't a big fan of the FLC. The FLC was great, but it only brought in one Lord, and the changes were nice for the rune system, but there wasn't much other change for... wasn't really much other change for the Dawi. The actual campaign changed a lot, but the multiplayer scene, not at all. Yeah, I can see one there. I can see that. What's the passive ability for that one?
Which one?
The Stromy. I saw the Stromy. Is it Stromy One Eye or Stromy?
Damn it! I know the one you're talking about. Stromny Redbeard, passive ability, +5 melee attack, +4 leadership.
Oh, okay, no, that's the wrong one. But yeah, no, there's one that gives melee attack and ITP, which would be like really strong if you could just plop that on a unit of, say, hammerers or something. That'd be like really strong. Or you could, plop it on some Ironbreakers that already don't have ITP and struggle with melee attack. That could be really nice. You could pay maybe 100 gold for that rune or something.
Yeah. Why is the Master Rune of Flight a magic missile? That seems weird.
Magic Rune of Flight. That's a new one, I think.
Master Rune of Flight. Magic missile. That's so weird.
To be fair, the Dawi do actually have magic missiles if you think about the Fiery Ring. The Fire Ring does give you a fireball, I guess. But yeah, they're strange. They shouldn't really have that as a rune.
Yeah.
It does magic damage. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Interesting. Oh, there you go. You were on it. You were on it. I just saw it. The Master Rune of. You were on a rune that did damage over time. I just saw it.
No.
There was. It's a really strong rune. You put it on Thoric, and I've seen Thoric on my campaigns get like 18k damage value. It's just absurd, like how much you'll get. But then there is a rune that you can like summon ancestors and the ancestry rune of Grimnir. You can summon like warriors and That's really strong. Yeah, there's a bunch of runes out there. The lore is super vast for runes. It's super vast.
Yeah, and they are cool.
Also, you
They're
can imbue runes to weapons. You can imbue runes to shields, armor, all these kind of cool things in lore. So there's a lot they can do. There's a lot they can do.
and finally a recycling system. Man, the old thing, I would just pile up all these shitty magic items, and it's like, well, never using this again. I really don't need, you know.
Also, there's a bunch of really cool legendary weapons they've got that they could also utilize. You know, you give them to heroes that could actually use them. You know, give them to the legendary lord, the normal one. You know, give him, instead of just giving him the Iron Ward and Hammer, give him an actual, you know, legendary heroic. Like Star Metal Plate's not bad, but you know, give them some good stuff, man. They've got some great stuff in lore. Give it to legendary lords. Sorry, the normal lords. Give them to the rune smiths, the rune lords. Give them something. You know, give them something worthwhile playing.
Yeah. Nick mentioning that you could have miners be able to set up explosive traps like wooden stakes from Medieval 2. That could be pretty funny.
Well, that could be good, yeah. Yeah, that'd be good. I know Dawi do use a lot of hidden traps, and I know they use a lot of, especially on their, I think defensively on their castles and things. Their holds. They certainly have a lot of defensive traps.
The last game 3 question would be, what new RORs would be useful for multiplayer? Could be from current units or any unit you think of. That's from Hammond and Real Human Being.
If you think about the infantry, all infantry has an ROR. I don't know. I think an ROR Thunderer would be nice. You know, I think there's a nice ROR that you can get for the Dark Elves that gives them added range for their Dark Shards with shields. Maybe getting Thunderers at 160 range, please, CA. That'd be very nice. Or like Bugman Rangers with a bit, you know, I think current Bugman Rangers are kind of a bit, you know, underwhelming, a bit disappointing. You know, bringing some extra units in there that have some great abilities. Like, they're really fun, Bugman Rangers, like with their liquid fortification and ITP. They've got everything and they look insane, but, you know, updating those would be nice. Please change core to great weapons. Please change them. They are garbage. They are pure garbage. Most things have an ROR in here, to be fair. Most things do. Maybe an ROR gyrocopter. Maybe improve the normal gyrocopter. One that actually doesn't have poor accuracy. Does a little bit more as well. Maybe some of the artillery. Yeah, for sure. Some of the artillery is lacking a bit on ROR. That would be quite nice, but for the majority, if you really think about Dawi, their unit pool is actually really low. What you can actually select, for Longbeard, you've got Longbeard great weapons, and then the ROR. For miners, you've got miners are blasting charges, the ROR. You've got Ironbreakers, the ROR. You know, you've just got limited on what you can bring.
So, you mentioned the great weapon stuff. I finally found that question. Stormrunner asks if the great weapon ranged infantry should be reworked into something else.
100%. One of great weapons, you pay money for great weapon like great weapon range tools. It's just not great. Like if you fine, they're decent melee combatants, but if you're paying for decent melee combatants for your range, I don't know. I think it's a really backwards way of thinking about it all.
You lose your shield.
Well, you lose your shield, so you can use the skirmish fight, and if they're getting into melee combat anyway, you're probably losing the battle. So, on both points, it's a lose-lose situation for me, and you're paying for AP that you're not necessarily looking to use anyway. So I don't see the point.
That really reminds me of my point with the chieftain. I did my Skaven guide. The chieftain, if your lord dies, you get an 8 leadership buff, so your army doesn't suffer. Like if your lord's dying, you're losing anyway.
Yep, 100%, especially when how much of balance of power your lord holds as well, right? So it's sort of like, great, you've got this great thing, but you're probably already losing anyway, so the actual benefit is minimal, right? I think actually if you could change it to more of a Lothran Seaguard unit where it could deal, like for example, if they charge into a cavalry, that would be really nice. You know, if they have like great axes that can like be anti-large and armor piercing, that'd be really nice. You know, make them a little bit more expensive for sure. Yeah, maybe 700 gold, but of course then if you charge into the back, you're going to get thumped by great weapon quarrelers.
Oh, Hammond's telling me in chat the Master Rune of Flight is not, as it would suggest by its name, making you fly. It's that you can imbue it on a hammer, and the hammer just won't be affected by gravity. So apparently, what's happening is they're just chucking a hammer into the sky.
I love it. I love it.
All right. Real Human Being asks, Thunderers, Quarrelers, Rangers, and Bugman Rangers, Throwing Axe Rangers, etc. Which ones, where, and why? I mean, that would take hours, but the rough idea is...
Break it down quickly if you like.
Yeah, that one.
So for example, I think when you break down these missile infantry units, you've got to be recognizing what you're paying for and why. So for example, a key example is Thunderers into Wood Elves. Wood Elves are renownedly known for having very light armor. So if you're going to be paying for ranged tools that have heavy armor piercing, they pay a lot for it. It's not particularly that useful, but of course, each units have their own variability. Iron Drake's very good at removing chaff, so cheap chaffy units like Bretonnia with the cheap infantry, zombies, chaff, just anything with light armor that's just in mass numbers, really good at clearing out. Quarrelers and Rangers, great arcs of fire, pretty cheap, really cost effective. Quarrelers, 80 armor, silver shields, they're really good at joining in cheap range fights. Hammer Torpedoes, really good against the lizard men. They got fire resistance, magic resistance, 125 armor, great against rot drops there. So they've got good anti-large and armor piercing missile tools. So they're very good against the dinosaurs. The only one I want redone is the Scolder Guard. I think the Scolder Guard has a really nice aesthetic. It's only really good against one faction with Black Orcs, really, in my opinion. Otherwise, it's pretty terrible. I'd like to see that reworked. The reason you bring the Iron Drakes is for the fire damage and the discourage, which is really good against like goblins and all Skaven and anything with low leadership. But then Orthor Raiders for me are the best upgrade ROI in the game, period.
Really good.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a normal unit of Rangers of Great Weapons and you compare them, triple gold chevron, 930 gold compared to 750, plus they get added missile strength with extra AP, and they get the Marked by Ulthra. Marked by Ulthra can be used with blasting charges, it can be used with pretty much anything. It's very, very strong. I try and fit in Ulthra Raiders where I can. Their accuracy is incredible, very good at sniping lords, heroes with heavy armor, and elite units. And they look insane as well, to be fair. So, yeah, I think that each one has its own utilization. I think Thunderers are some of the most cost efficient in the game, along with things like Peasant Archers, with fire arrows and poison arrows. I think they're very good. There's not much that beats them, but certainly everything has its utilization, has its own specific gameplay, but hopefully that answers a lot for you.
Yeah. Yeah, Dawi range units are pretty good, especially Thunderers. I love Thunderers.
Mm-hmm. Thunderers are very strong. Line of sight is a problem for the stunties.
Yes. Speaking of ranged units, I have my own strong opinions about this, but Miners of Blasting Charges, are they ranged or melee, Butcherbird?
Tough question. I think it's... Considering Dawi already kind of struggle in the meta, like they're not strong, but they're not weak. I think just making blasting charges range and counters range nerfs one of the things that Dawi rely on very heavily. I prefer them. I don't think they should count as range. I tell you what. I'll take that back. I don't think previously they should have counted as range. I could argue now they can because of restock. Because of restock, I can now agree that they should count as range because you can refill that ammunition.
Yeah.
I think it's unfair. I think with cohorts, with the javelins, I don't think they should because although they do have great javelins, you can't restock them.
See, I would count them as ranged. My argument has been, because I was talking about Chameleon Stalkers too, that's where this argument came up, but I would personally consider them range. Because there is a melee variant, and it's almost never seen, because the blasting charge variant exists, and it's like, well, if you have the option between paying 100 gold for a ranged attack or the basic, and we never see the basic, that makes me think people are taking it for the ranged attack, not because they want a miner. You know what I mean? So that's, like, to me, and you're allowed to have your own opinion on this, but I'm just saying my piece on it is like, well, if the reason someone takes it is because there's a ranged attack, then it's usually a ranged unit rather than a melee unit, but that's my
this
thought.
is true. But if you think, and also the other reason you never take general miners is because of dwarf warriors, right? If you compare dwarf warriors to like dwarf miners, actually just don't fit into the meta at all. Like, they're actually more of a melee attack. It's the only armored infantry that has more melee attack than melee defense that aren't hammerers that have AP. They're basically just really, really poor hammerers. They have very low melee defense. Armor's not great. They don't have shields. They don't hold. They actually don't fit into the mixture at all. So my counter argument to that is the fact that dwarf warriors have good armor, good shields, 40 melee defense. They hold very long, whilst miners don't. The only reason blasting charges are brought is because of the blasting charges to deal with chaff.
Yeah.
My counter argument to that is if they didn't have blasting charges, miners just wouldn't get brought anyway. They just wouldn't get brought because they're not good.
Oh, I agree. I agree 100%.
The only thing they have is Vanguard, but it's the same thing and it's always the thing with the Dawi. If something's good, I'll just nerf it. Just say, it's ranged, so you can't use it. Which I can understand. And I understand the justification as you bring it for the blasting charges, sure. But you only get 2. So before, I would say, no, it's not ranged. But now, because you can restock it, sure. I can agree. I can understand it.
All right, you mentioned the best ROR, but Real Human Being wonders, what are the best and worst RORs? Best, you said Ulthar's Raiders. What's the worst?
So I think almost all the RORs in this game are for the Dawi are great, except one. The only one that's pretty poor is the Scolder Guard. Everything else has a place. Water Dragon Firepaths are really good. Anti-infantry do fire damage. They're great up against Treekim. They're great up against regenerating units, such as, if you play against the Undead with Sternsman. Anti-infantry, 50 melee defense is super strong. The argument is which is better, those or Longbeards. I'm always going to say Longbeards, but they're good. They're maybe mid-tier. Okra Miners, 3 blasting charges, fire damage, very strong. Grumbling Guard are very strong, great AP. If you actually combine Longbeards and Longbeard Great Weapons, they're actually exactly the same. They have exactly the same stats as both combined if you bring the best bits. And they also have ITP and the Old Grumblers, which is Vigor increase. Which means they actually never drop to that bottom tier of Exhausted, which means they never actually lose their melee defense. So they stay at 48 melee defense for the whole battle, which is really nice. Dragonbite Slayers, amazing, really, really good. Peak Guard have some great abilities with that magic damage, armor sundering, ITP. I think Norgrimlings are insane. I think Skyhammer's not used enough. I think Skyhammer's very, very nice. Great slows, brilliant missile strength, and I think they're all very good for the majority. Yeah.
I don't want to upset you, but the Scolder Guard is currently performing a little worse than basic Iron Drakes against Black Orcs.
Oh wow, okay, that's interesting.
All right, they're getting better now that they're very, very close range, but the basic Iron Drakes are doing about the same, and they're like 300 gold cheaper.
I know, they're not good. I mean, what's the AP output here? 4 armor piercing against... It's only 10. It's only 10 armor piercing. Like, it's not that much different.
I mean, yeah, but like they did half health for Black Orc before it got to them with no chaff between them. The other one did about 2/3. But is that really worth 300 gold? And only against Black Orcs, where it's like generic infantry, as you said.
Thunders, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
And against generic infantry, that discourage debuff is going to be way better than the damage.
100%. I think that I just think the Scolder Guard are very bad. I think they need reworking. I mean, they do. I mean, if you think about it in general, they get added physical resistance, 20%. They get armor piercing and add a little bit of added range. But there needs to be something about them that's more. There needs to be more about it. Because I can't justify bringing those over Thunderers. Like, why would you? I don't see the point.
Because they're about to win Grombrindle this game.
Maybe.
Go, like, Scolder Guard, go!
Grombrindle! I think giving them stagger might be quite nice if they can like stagger opponents, or they can like knock them over, or something easier like that might be better. Like, because in theory, the firing steam, or give them a discourage ability, like -16 leadership or -10 or something. That'd be really cool. Or like a scold ability. Give them something different, you know. Give them something better. I don't know, man. I don't know. I just think something needs to be reworked. Like, Thunderers are just so goddamn cost efficient.
Yeah, Thunderers are great. So what you're saying is nerf Thunderers?
What I'm saying is, if you nerf Thunderers, I will hunt down CA personally.
Nah, dude. The only way to deal with dwarves is to nerf them. You know this.
Yeah, that's true.
You know it in your heart, Anakin.
Oh my god.
Anyway.
But yeah.
Got it.
That is true. Ducky does say a really important point that Scotty Guard do have a lot of swag.
They do have a lot of swag.
They do. They swag hard.
Ducky touched on it earlier, but Stormrunner and Bob Tresh ask how to fix flame cannons.
Make them cheaper.
Make them cheaper.
Flame cannons are actually like not terrible, right? They're terrible for their cost point, but they're actually not terrible artillery. I think their range is really bad. 230 range is atrocious.
Yeah, I was going to say give them some frickin' range.
But then, of course, then you start going into the Orkan guns, where they got 300. But, of course, if you give Orkan guns more range, then there's going to be no point in bringing cannons, right? So that's kind of the trade-off. There's just so many counters to flame cannons. And even now, with Dawi, everyone brings counters to cannons. You bring 2 cannons, sometimes it's not enough. You know, so it's a tough one, really. It's because they're so great at what they do when they are allowed to do what they do. If you alter them too much, you can see them really become OP over the top. But I don't think we'll ever see them. But what would you change? Maybe a bit of added range. I mean, if you think about their ability as well, they get burn, which is -8. If you want a negative leadership, bring the Goblobber, right? That will do a better effect for longer range with armor piercing.
-16 versus -8. Oof.
Yeah, I think flame cannons, the only way you can use them is against vampire counts. It's the only way you can use them.
Then zombie summons go burr.
They delete Graveguard.
Oh yeah. I would just give them more range. I think their range is always the thing that I find most upsetting when I play with them. Because they're not even that accurate at a range, right?
Nope.
Yeah, so if you give them more range, they'll at least miss some. It's just...
There's a drop-off percentage the further you go through their percentage of range, right? So even at 230, they're going to be at their minimal percentage of accuracy. So, and even then, 230 is poor. I think it might actually be one of the lowest for artillery in the game is 230. You think about the Ushopti actually outrange them.
Yeah, that's just not okay.
Yeah, and that's an artillery piece.
I would definitely up their range and just leave it so that, like... They get less accurate at the range, but at least they could try to fire back.
What I'd like, put flame cannons up to 300, and then put organ guns up to 350s, 360s sort of range. That would be a nice buff that I don't think would even still see get them picked, but would see an increase in the amount you pick them.
Well, we're already talking about artillery. Hammond, when are each of the artillery viable?
Ooh. There are a lot of matchups that are traps with artillery. If you think your opponent's going to go lots of chariots, lots of horses with big hitboxes, cannons can be really nice. Generally, it's very map dependent. So if you've got a lot of terrain, it can be quite difficult to bring artillery. But yeah, I say generally if you've got, it's a tough one. Like, for example, if you, like, most people just go, oh, artillery, I'll bring it against high elves. Okay, they've got bolt throwers that are cheaper, and they can trade against you pretty effectively. But, you know, you end up going into an artillery fight. Goblobber's very good. I think they're good against, like, low leadership factions, such as Skaven. They're also good against, for example, you know, just bring the one. They can be great against Greenskins, Norska. Yeah, you can see them in those matchups for sure. Otherwise, other than that, not much. I don't really like bolt throws too much. Not particularly fan of organ guns or flame cannons, so I only ever really bring a cannon if I'm honest.
Cannons are really good.
They're very accurate indeed.
Wreck to that goblin, great shaman. Killing smalls. I wish dwarves had deplorable weapons, like bipod weapons that reinforce their immobile playstyle instead of just pushing viability through gyrocopters. Deployable. Oh, okay. I thought you meant deplorable as in like a war crime, and I'm like, that's kind of a weird specific request.
So he's saying that he wishes that they could have deployable bipods.
Yeah, like in Call of Duty, there's sometimes those guns where you set up the bipod, then you can rotate and they have no recoil.
Right, yeah. I mean, Dwarfs are already very accurate, right? They have the highest accuracy in the game for their missile, infantry, and artillery. Mm-hmm. What I'd actually prefer on a mobility point is for example, Dwarves to be faster moving with their artillery pieces and their range. I like, have much better like reload skill, for example. The reload skill is not that great. Thunderers can be pretty slow. 11.7 seconds to reload for a Thunderer. I mean, admittedly, they have great AP, but the only other reason before like Master Engineers got changed, you could bring them was to bring things, for example, ballistics calibration, or to bring. I think there's another one that also gives them increased accuracy. Can't remember what it is. I think it's the spyglass gives them accuracy. I think, but they're already very accurate. So for me, it's just a waste of very, very expensive points. I'd like them just to be. I don't know. I don't know if there's a specific way that you can change mobility of range and infantry range. I don't know if there is, without making them more mobile.
How do you like Ungrim Iron Fist getting less value in melee combat against a Great Shaman on a Spider?
Wait, Ungrim Iron Fist loses? Oh no, he wins. Okay.
Well, he won because of his leadership, but he lost by health and value.
Oh dear God.
Also, his leadership was negative. He's unbreakable. How is that even impossible?
That looks like a nice glitch.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can replicate it, because that was so weird that his leadership was negative. Anyway.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I was just giving the stream something to look at while we talked about that.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all. Got any Mimi questions?
Oh yeah, we have a ton. We have a million questions. Oh God, it's every time. Why are you so bad at this? It's your one job, Ungrim.
If you give me 10 seconds and you get some Mimi questions, I'll be right back.
Okay. Oh, when the game ends, he's not unbreakable anymore for some reason. Okay. Whatever. Ungrim, you suck. Ungrim, you suck so bad. Yeah, I agree. It's just... Why do you have an item that makes you worse? It's dumb. It's big dumb. But, like, I know the reasons. Like, you can tell me all the reasons you want why he loses that. I'm saying an anti-large foot character fighting an anti-large monster. So its anti-large doesn't help it versus Ungrim. This is a caster... And they cost roughly the same. If I add Red Ruin, they actually cost almost exactly the same. So this should go heavily to him, and it doesn't, means this is a bad character. Alright. Yeah. The facts of why he loses aside, he shouldn't lose. Alright. Ragnarok Spider, Catchweb Spider Shrine. I don't know what Catchweb Spider Shrine means, but I will believe you, game.
Alrighty.
Welcome back. So we could polish off the logic-specific questions. Mm-hmm. Did you pick Dawi because you were a corner camper in COD 2? Hammond.
Love that. No, I was quite the opposite. Nah. I just love the Dawi lore, man. I love the Dawi lore. I played them first in campaign. I read some books that Ducky gave me, and I just love it. I just love it. But that's a great question.
Hammond also asks of Call of Duty, do you think the new pseudo fantasy sci-fi COD games? I fucked that up. But what do you think of the new pseudo fantasy sci-fi COD games? A bit overboard, or do you enjoy the future tech? It's also from Hammond.
So specific Call of Duty, like, are you enjoying more of the futuristic gameplay?
Yeah. For anyone who didn't know, Logic played a ton of Call of Duty before he came to Warhammer.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I actually have no experience previously before Warhammer, so maybe 9 months ago. I have no experience with RTS at all. I was a competitive Call of Duty player. Do I enjoy the? Yeah, I enjoyed the for the short while that jetpacks came in. It was yeah, it was certainly fun. I definitely enjoyed it, and like the futuristic element of just bringing something different to the game was nice. Yeah, for sure.
Other than Ironbreaker, what is your favorite career in Vermintide, Hammond?
Later.
Slayer.
Hmm.
I suck at Slayer, dude. Every time I play it, I'm like, I'm squishy and I suck.
Do you bring the throwing axes?
No. I don't think I have that DLC. I think I just take two. I think I take two axes because I want to feel cool, and then two hammers.
Yeah, I take two hammers and then two axes generally is the best way, but throwing axes are also like a complete meme, but they're also super fun.
Yeah, they're very fun. You're so squishy. Like random assholes will kill me. Because what difficulty do you usually play on?
Cataclysm normally.
Oh, okay. Even on Legendary, dude, I just get one shot by random nonsense.
Yeah, it's really hard. You just gotta be great with parrying, which is also not easy.
Yeah.
But you thump against some things, which is really fun.
Logic, you kind of look like an elf with your pointy ears. Why did you betray your own kind, killing Smalls?
Why did I betray my own kind? I'm not that tall, to be fair. I'm like what, 5'10", so yeah, maybe Dawi was more my birth right to become a Dawi fan.
And then
Gorm's getting slapped.
Yeah. Killing Smalls asks, can you have logic pronounced Eumaies? I mean, you said it multiple times, but...
Yeah, I think I say Eumaies. I think is what I say.
That's pretty close.
I'm pretty sure like the E is silent, right?
Yeah, probably. It's all vowels, man. We do
I know.
We do our best.
I don't know. Why is Ungrim not fast? Because of his armor. Because of his armor. Because he's got because he is a king. He starts to wear armor, even if he is a slayer.
Wait, is this AI actually effectively cycle charging with Grom? That's hilarious.
And it's also getting regen. I love that.
I mean, he's still losing, but this is really funny that this AI is playing the shit out of this.
I think he could win this way, right?
He could win. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
That'll do it. There we go.
Put him on slow, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I love how he was just so effectively cycle charging.
He's actually kite charging you. I like
Yeah.
that.
These are questions that were for you or Eumaies, but not specific. Venge asks, why are Dawi the best? And I don't think he means like gameplay. I think he just means like chadness.
Why are the best? Oh yeah, because they're the biggest chads, 100%. Like I think that Dawi have the biggest beards, the biggest hearts, and the biggest grudges. That's why they're the best. And to be fair, Dawi are they are the loyal clan, right? You know, Dawi will stick with you right to the end. They are true, and if you go against them, they'll never forget it.
Artisan Tech Priest asks, how does it feel to main the most honorable race, while other lesser races envy you, your arts, your fine craftsmanship, and the bonds of loyalty amongst your kin? That seems like a fair question.
I mean, there we go. I mean, that's what it is, right? That's why there's, quite a bit of, as much as Dawi are loved by some of the community also hate the Dawi. And, it's the thing is that they just wish that they could be us. And, I get it, man. I get it. I understand it. And I fully empathize with where they're coming from. But, man, we just need to bring the love together. We need to bring people in towards the Dawi. And, if we take a good example here with the PE boys, we take, for example, Bunnies. He is a Dawi main at heart. He just doesn't know it yet. I've been slowly bringing him along, bringing him up, and he plays Dawi more and more, and he actually just doesn't lose with Dawi, and he's slowly learning the love of the language of Dawi.
Goodbye for Poland. You have a good night. Why do they believe Dawi versus Greenskins? I don't know. Do you enjoy the Dawi mirror for Poland?
Yes, actually, I really do, actually. The Dawi mirror is actually really awesome. It's a really good collective of... There's actually some good mind games, right? So the interesting interactions are that normal Slayers beat Giant Slayers. Giant Slayers act as Cav with good AP. And then depends, like if you just go really wide with throwing axes, do you bring thunderers? How much great weapon infantry do you bring? Do you bring hammerers? You know, and which legendary lords do you bring? Do you bring runesmiths, or do you bring, for example, Thoric if you want to bring some runes, or do you bring probably the best sniper lord, which is going to be Ungrim? You know, what would you bring? I think there's a good level of trickery here between the games for sure.
Mm-hmm. I've played it a couple times. It is more interesting than you think it would be, for all being 100%. Honest with ourselves.
And there's certainly more dull matchups for sure.
Is. Let's just get some hammers in here for this bullshit. Alright. What existing units would you change to be better? I mean, we discussed the artillery and the ranged units pretty effectively.
Yeah. I think. Let's go through it in detail. So, Rune Lords, change them. Normal Dwarf Lord, change him. Thane, changed them. For whatever reason, they gave the Runesmith the only item that made Thane's like a tool niche, which was the Fiery Ring, I think it is. The Iron Bidge Ring, which gives fire weakness. They gave him a Rune of Dismay, which of all the runes they're going to give, it's complete garbage. I don't know why you would give them that. And then they got the Silver Horn of Vengeance, which gives plus 12 charge bonus, which for Dawi, don't quite get it, but there we go.
Yeah, it's a big who cares.
Yeah, it's a big like whoop. You know, Dawi aren't really relying on their charge bonus that much. Unless, of course, you bring in, like, Giant Slayers. But, you know, who is? Artillery pieces, Organ Guns, Flame Cannons. Change the Scolder Guard. Change the Great Weapon Quarrelers. Give it something a little bit more to the Bugmans, maybe. Bugmans for 800 cost just don't do well. Like, Quarrelers that are anything over 600 just don't do well in the game, in my opinion, period. Because at that cost, you're expecting either some sort of level of armor piercing, anti-infantry, or anti-large. So I think Bugmans need to go down that sort of route, or have some extra effect. Like regen is great, but I think they need something else that's going to be like better output. They're a very defensive tool. Whereas the range there is actually used as an aggressive tool for the Dawi. So at 800 gold cost, the Bugmans just don't fulfill what they need to be fulfilling. For that, miners. I don't know. If you want to stop people using mines or blasting charges, make normal mines cheaper. Put them at maybe like 300, maybe less. Because they're just way too expensive. Because like for an extra 125 gold, like you could bring 5 miners or you can bring 4 Dwarf Warriors. Fine, I'm bringing 4 Dwarf Warriors. I don't care. They're just that much better. They are that much better.
They're quite better.
The only counter argument is with the Rune of Doom or the Rune of Speed for the miners. Obviously, giving them 44 melee attack with AP can be good. Obviously, the wider you go with Dawi, the better utilization you get out of the Rune of Doom. So yeah. I guess there'd be some of the changes. Change the Runesmith, make them cheaper. Change Forge Fire. I don't know why you changed Forge Fire.
Real human being asked, do you have a beard in real life?
Yes. Would I like it to be bigger? Yes, but unfortunately it gets very curly.
Mine just gets really itchy, and like it doesn't grow in thick enough that you can't see the skin underneath it, so then it's like, well, why am I doing this? Also, it's blonde, so it's just gross.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh, you can be like a bit like a Viking though.
Sure. That's the complimentary way of saying it. Why does some of the community hate the dwarves so much? Because of their play style or short legs for Poland? We covered that, but just acknowledging I saw it.
I think that the reason why a lot of people hate it is because it's Dawi are just notoriously they have some great duration. Like taking them down is just so goddamn time consuming, and it just feels like a lot of effort. I can't think of the correct words right now, but it's it feels like a lot of effort to fight the dwarves because they're just so durable, right? So it just feels like breaking down the front line and stuff. It just you're expending a lot of resources, energy, just to try and break down the Dawi. And they just have a particular playstyle, which is either very boxy, where you always have to go to them, or they've got cheese with gyrocopters, or just mass range that just deletes everything you've got. Like, they're just very good at particular things, but they have massive weaknesses.
Yeah. Gotcha. Runes on artillery. Sorry, you go.
I was just going to say that's actually answering a bit of a question from earlier. That's what makes Dawi so satisfying to play sometimes, when you bring a style that you've practiced, that you want to utilize, and it actually works. You do something where you bring, like, my favorite is an onion push. You bring an onion push that comes with Thunderers. It's meant, I've designed this army to deal with the Lizardmen in this way, and it works. Oh, that's hugely satisfying, because Dwarves have such big weaknesses that when you actually bring something that you've practiced and played and it works, oh, it's incredible. It's a nice feeling.
Gotcha. Oh, I forgot to ask this one while Eumaies was still here, but Hammond asked, how did you both get your names?
So when I played Call of Duty, my original name, I needed to come up for a name, for a competitive name. Originally I was called Cryptic, was my original name. But then a player that jumped up in the scene really quickly in Call of Duty stole the name Cryptic from me, and because he was bigger, that name just got stole from me.
Aww.
And we used to have an old clan called Logic, where the clan fell apart, and I just took on the name as Logic, as the Call of Duty player Logic. That was my name. I don't know about Eumaies though. I don't know.
I'll put on my best Eumaies impersonation. I hit all the vowels on my keyboard and hit enter. All right.
Yeah, it seems like one of those ones where you just mash the keyboard and it came together, right?
Yeah. For Poland asked, did you know/enjoy Dawi Warhammer lore?
I don't know as much about the lore as I would love to know. I will always be honest about that. I wish I knew more. I'm trying to read and I'm trying to catch up and I'm trying to be better at that. But I love Dawi lore. I love Dawi lore. I love the ability that Dawi will stick with you to the end. They fight together. There's this arminess that I guess Eumaies was talking about earlier. They fight together, they stay together, and they'll fight to the last person if they have to, and they'll always join against it's the whole good guy thing, right? They'll join against no matter who at the end of the day. They'll fight alongside the high elves if they have to towards the end.
Yes, classic dwarves being good. I doubt that. I think there's murder in your hearts. You just won't admit it. How many Doom Wheels do you think it'll take to kill an army?
I wish Doom Wheels were better, man. I wish they were better.
They suck. They suck really
suck
bad.
so hard. Yeah,
but
they suck really hard.
They are going to run over these dwarves and do great, and nothing bad will happen.
Okay. Is a goatee ever acceptable for a dwarf? No. Hence the quote, beards and belts.
Beards and belts.
Beards and belts is one of my favourite quotes.
That is pretty funny.
Beards and belts
is tuck them.
They actually tuck them in, and generally status is generally your status is because actually I think it was the brother of the High King went to the High Elves, not realizing something. They actually went to the Dark Elf Rebellion to, I think it was something to do with negotiations, and the brother got his beard cut off by them, thinking that it was the High Elves, which I believe started the War of the Beard, or the War of Vengeance, whatever way you want to say it. I believe that's roughly how it went around. So like their beards, like the longer it is, like just the bigger status it gives you.
Yeah.
It's really tied into their like personality.
Big chat.
A dwarf losing their beard is like a dwarf losing their honor, I guess.
I would like to point out that in the Skaven trailer for Warhammer 2, like there was this picture of like Doom Wheels just rolling over like infantry going super fast and like Mad Maxing it, and then in the actual game they crash into any infantry and stop dead. It's just like,
that is the problem with the infantry changes with mass, etc. Dawi needed it, but also like it just makes Doom Wheels suck.
Yeah, I was looking at it earlier today on stream, and like most large monsters, I feel like with the Cav beta, they can just walk through infantry infinitely, but there are certain things that just got left behind. Like certain chariots and dragons. Dragons can't get through anything, but like Jabberslythes, Dreadsaurians can now walk through zombies like they're nothing. I don't think that's a bad change. I just think the things that got left behind shouldn't have gotten left behind.
Yeah, I think obviously not everything. Obviously, the main changes were the way cavalry interacted and cavalry models interacted with infantry. So not everything would have got changed. Like SEM monsters would not have really been particularly touched too much. But the fact that some things have changed is interesting.
Yeah. All right, focusing back up, do you have your own personal Demoscron for Poland?
Oh, I actually did order a book that never came, and then I cancelled it because it took like over a month. But I am getting my own Damascron, yes.
That's actually tight. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I've actually got a list of names that are on the Damascron, and the way to get out of the Damascron is to win with a full Slayer build.
Oh, that's right. I remember you talking about that sort of thing. I didn't know you were going to get a physical book for it, though.
Yeah, I bought a book off Amazon that never came.
Oh.
It was a big gold book that I was going to put some stuff in it, then I was going to print out some Dawi stuff and put it on.
I'm bad at Dawi. How do I get better, Jeremy?
Check out my videos. No.
I mean, you can do a little self-plug here and then answer the question.
I mean, yeah, I do a series on it. I do a series on the Dwarfs, and generally, I don't know if you have seen it, Jeremy, but it's called Dwarfs vs. the World. You can go check that out. That sort of breaks down the Dwarfs a little bit, so it should give you a bit of an understanding. But in general, how to get better at the Dwarfs is Dwarfs run just different to anything. You've got to recognize, if you're going for certain factions, you've got to recognize, first you need to recognize where the Dwarfs fall. When you understand where the Dwarfs fall and what you need to necessarily pick up, or at least prepare for when you're fighting against an army. So for example, they struggle against dealing with chariots, they struggle against dealing with anything with high mobility. If you can work a way of how to negate those negatives, which are very, very hard, and then work on the positives that work on the weaknesses of their force, and then hold that together with a tight build, then you're looking in the right area first. But how do you get better at the Dawi? Honestly, playing it. I see a lot of new players that I can just instantly go, you're going to lose by doing this. Like, for example, they pushed out a specific infantry force, or they've got units on the flank that are too wide, they don't have any support. They just run different to any other faction because their mobility is different, the way they play is different. You just need to practice, and you'll learn. I can just see if two units are too wide apart, we're going to see some dogs go through there, or we're going to see some cavalry get through there. Or that unit on the outside, that's going to get abused by something with terror, or just a big, large monster. Yeah, there's just different mechanics they have for the Dawi compared to any other faction. I mean, what do you think, Human Boy? I can't think of any other faction that has as many glaringly large weaknesses that the Dawi have. Apart from Vampire Counts, maybe.
Yeah, but Counts are a little better in their strengths. Yeah, I would say just playing them. Playing any faction is generally, like, the only way to really learn them. There's not really a substitute for just hardcore reps, because even if you're playing like similar factions, there's just enough small differences that it's just not the same. Unless you're talking about like Chaos and Norska, where you literally half your roster is the exact same freaking unit. Like trying to play, a good example is Skaven and Beastman. It's like, oh, low leadership factions, I get it. But it's like, do you? Because it's so different. And yeah, that's like, oh, that's Rush versus a defensive faction. That's not the same. Well, it kind of goes across the board. Like, there's a shooting faction like Dawi that's Empire, but your infantry suck and are super cheap, but low leadership, so it's not comparable either. Like, every faction in this game is so flavorful and different. You can't. It's really hard.
About it.
Yeah.
That is the great thing about it, right? And that's what makes Dawi so great. Warhammer so great is the fact that there's such big versatility between the factions.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Dawi just have the biggest weaknesses in the game that are very exploitable, but they also have some of the biggest strengths in the game. It's about playing with them, learning how to utilize them. A lot of my builds actually I actually don't box too much. I actually don't sit down with cannons too much. I'm actually quite aggressive with my Dawi because I think for the majority that is actually better in most matchups. But it's about learning your play style. It's about learning how you play and learning how you can deal with the massive Dawi represent. Or present, should I say.
Yeah. How do you relax on a busy day if your computer were to break down? Paint, TV, read a book, go to the pub, beach, hike. That is from Hammond.
Ooh, if I was to relax for a day, what would I do? Me and my housemates, we end up watching quite a lot of TV. We watch, things like Harmon Quest, which is a little bit like D&D. We also like just watch TV shows. We go out, we play football, go to the gym. What else do I do? My computer was to break down. What else would I do? Yeah, go out. I like going out. I like going out drinking. I don't do that as much anymore. Got a bit older now. But yeah, invariably, yeah. I think sports is my other thing as well. Like I like playing football, rugby, those kind of things.
Yeah. Smart. What models would you like to get a visual update on the Dawi roster? A visual update, not a gameplay update.
Ooh, what a visual update. I'd like to see some of the more common units of Longbeards and Dwarf Warriors and Mines get a bit of an update, you know, make them a little bit more flavourful. I think things look really cool. Rune Space are a bit bland. What else could we think of? Yeah, I think those. Maybe Bolt Throws could look a bit nicer. Grudge Throws could look better. Yep, for sure. You could see some of those ones looking nicer.
Name the top 5 units in the entire game that the Dawi hate to play against for Poland.
Name the 5 toughest units in the game for Dawi to play against. Let's go. I think the first one would be Tuskal Chariots. Tuskal Chariots are hard. Lion Chariots to trace. They're very difficult. Let's think what else. Shades. Shades from the Dark Elves are difficult to deal with. Way Watchers, of course. There's just a bucket load that they suffer against.
Poison Wind Globes. Best one.
Yeah. Warlock Giselles.
Yeah, Giselles are good. Not as cool as Poison Wind, though.
Yeah, it's true.
That's actually a lie. Giselles are super cool.
I mean, the fact that they do fire... what's it they call it? They call it the Warpstone. The Warpstone guns.
Yeah.
The Warpstone ammunition is really cool. But yeah, there's a lot of tough units in the game. That just, you know, if Dawi can't brace against it, and it's fast, it's very easily healed, it's going to be tough for them to deal with. You know, it used to be, you know, they haven't always been amazingly strong, but I always did like Doom Flares and Doom Wheels. They've always been quite strong as well, or at least they were. But at the moment, they kind of suck.
I fought an army of entirely Dwarf Warriors, and it's still proving particularly difficult to win. Oh god, we're getting there though. Alright. Question, top 5 units. Yep. Who is the second best god in Warhammer? Hammond.
Who's the second best?
Yeah, I mean, my first best would be Sigmar. I'm really hoping that that's the answer. Otherwise, someone's going to heretic jail!
This is true. Grimnir is a cool god, to be fair. I like Grimnir.
Grimnir's pretty sweet.
But who else do I like as a god? I don't know. I like Grimnir. I'm gonna stick with Grimnir. But if you consider the White Dwarf as a god or not.
Grumbrindle. Son of the Mountain Grumbrindle might be. Do you like the new Pick 2 Band 0 format? Have dwarves benefited from it or been hurt by it? Who are good partners for them? Smalls.
I'm not a fan of the Pick 2 Band 0 format, which I know will hurt Smalls personally. I'm not a fan of it, I don't think. When I do my best of 7s, it's Pick 3 Band 2, and then I do go into Pick 2 Band 0 in the later stages. So you like the first 4 games will be Pick 3 Band 2, and then it will go into Pick 2 Band None. But just as a general system of Pick 2 Band None, I understand it kind of limits the pick of mirror matches, but at the same time there are certain factions that can just never be picked first, ever. Because they're just too easily counterable.
Yeah. I would tend to agree.
Like, for example, if you went Dawi and VC, you have just so many counters. Dark Elves, High Elves. Like, there's just so many counters. You just decide to pick what you want to pick. And then also you'll get bottlenecked into bringing the same factions, like Empire and Vampire counter would be a good pick, for example. The ones that are pretty hard to counter. Like, the Dawi would be the only one that I could think that could counter both. Yeah, so you know there are some I don't like it personally. I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't really like change that much, so I'm just really used to my Skaven pick 1 band 2, and then when there's the pick 2, I'm like, oh, then people index it to counter my Skaven, and I have to play other stuff, and it's like, like, I think that makes me a better player, but also the reason I play this game is to play Skaven, so I don't really... I want to be a better player, obviously, but if I could be a better player and also play Skaven, that'd be good, because that's the fun I get. That's why I do this.
I mean, pick 1 ban 2 is great, and I think pick 3 ban 2 is also great, because then you also get a return ban. And it doesn't ever prevent you from stopping you picking your faction. There are some ban systems out there that will prevent you from ever picking your main faction. But yeah, I'm not a fan of 2 and pick 2 ban 0. I'm not a fan of it, if I'm honest.
None of my fucking Doom players paid for themselves.
Really? No way. No way.
None of them did.
You also got a close victory as well against units that should not have been anywhere near you.
Oh my god, Doom players, you suck. Alright. Warhammer dwarves or true Tolkien Chad dwarves? Hammond.
Oh, Warhammer dwarves or Tolkien dwarves? Ooh. My biggest issue I have with oh, I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know. Probably Warhammer. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in Warhammer they're more thematic. In Tolkien they're a little more generic.
I think they're very generic. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're everything you can picture a dwarf to be, but here I like their aesthetic more. To me, they all. I mean, I guess like there's the whole battle hardened idea as well, right? So.
Yeah. Do you think battles are decided at the army selection screen more than other factions' Venge? So I think he means for dwarves.
I think dwarves do I think dwarves are more roulette build than others?
That's essentially the question. Yeah.
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 On average, yeah.
I could agree.
There are some like beastmen. You could just pick a fact. You could like if you were to go into, for example, a 1 build battle royale. You could pick other factions that would, on average, you could build a build that would be a higher percentage of safety that you could beat most other 1 builds with than you can with a
Dawi. Nameless Order, what would you take against Skaven? What's worth Skaven or High Elves? Eumaies answered the Skaven thing earlier in the video, so you'd have to go back to that. But I can ask what is worse, Skaven or High Elves? So which would... You have to face one of the two. What would you rather face?
Skaven At what level? At what level?
Let's say a mirror clone of yourself.
If at my level, which I consider myself like average, if not slightly better than average, maybe. I don't know. I think high elf. It depends what build you bring with high elves. Like there's some really cheesy builds you can bring with high elves that I don't think there's anything you can do against. But in general, the higher you go, the more difficult it becomes to deal with Skaven. I feel like.
Did you see Killing Smalls' comment above the heart?
On an unrelated note, I realised my 2 favourite Warhammer YouTubers on the same video. Oh, cheers, bro. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
yeah, buddy.
That's nice.
Yes.
All right. How do you wake up and deal with being short, Dialotron? Well, if 5'10" is short, then my immense 5'11" is pretty great.
How do I wake up? I wake up great, knowing that my honour is intact. And that my brother will always be behind me.
That's smart. Why does it seem Dawi mains have a really hard time making something besides a box build, Cyrus? I mean...
I don't think that's true.
Yeah, you said already you don't tend to...
I don't even think box builds are that good, to be honest. Like, even box builds, if you lose on any flank, you've just lost. Like, onion builds are the way to play Dawi. Like, this is just the way. Onion builds and then... Yeah, like onion pushes. Like, if you don't onion, I don't know. I don't think you stand much chance.
Yeah, I have a bit of a grudging with this type of question about my Skaven, because it's like, oh man, your Skaven always box and all this stuff, and it's like, well, yeah, but when I don't have cavalry, and my mobile elements are wolf rats, which are some of the lowest leadership units in the game, like, why do I have any incentive to spread out my formation? Like, that's not a wise thing to do. Take the mobile fight against any other faction's going to beat me in the mobile game, so why engage them in the mobile game?
Yeah. Why try and fight someone at their strength when you can, there's no point you playing at average when they're going to be playing at maximal strength, right? And also, like, I think for the majority, and I hope people don't take this offensively, I don't think people know the difference between onions and boxers. I think there are some out there that don't know the difference. So, like, it'd be good if we could do a video on that could describe the difference, I think, sometimes as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people on my videos, a lot of people on my YouTube go, oh, gosh, just boxing again. I'm like, no, it's an onion build. It's very different. The way it's applied, the way it's dealt with is very different than compared to a box build. Box build, just a nice, big, heavy overflank with some good units will do very well. Whilst an onion build, you can't do that. I mean, you can, but...
Now, as a Skaven, I'm not super familiar with the concept of an onion. Is it that, like, 360-ish you have multiple layers? Because I usually have a more arrowhead formation where it's like my front is super loaded and my flanks are weaker.
Yeah, that's generally how I play it, right? So with an onion, you generally have different levels of troops to go through, right? Where you can have, say, like, you might have a level of Dwarf warriors at the front, behind them is some miners with blasting charges, and then behind that there's a couple of units of infantry in there to fill in those pockets, and then you might have thunderers in behind that, then maybe an artillery with some slayers in the backside, right? So it gets thinner and thinner as you go backwards with the infantry units, but of course, if they're going to flank, you've got time to rotate what's at the front line. If you go straight through the middle, which is where I have my strongest point, that's the shortest line of resistance, right? So if you go straight through the middle, you'll get straight to my artillery quicker than if you go on the flanks, because you have to go round my force.
Mm-hmm.
So the onion build, there's going to be multiple levels of infantry that protect blasting charges or range or whatever it might be to get to that front line, whilst a box build is even all around, right? Where you're going to have some in the front, some in the side, some in the back, and then you just push forward as a literal box.
Yeah.
Whereas with an onion, it's going to be heavily centered on like a sort of a half circle at the front where it's got a couple of layers to go through. Yeah, I agree with that way. Everyone says box, but it's almost never a box. Yeah, I think if you box with a Dawi, it's not great.
Yeah. There are times, like, there are hard boxes that you might see sometimes with, like, Chaos using, like, 4 Chosen in a literal square. But other times, like, it can both be true that some players, including myself, box a lot, but there are also times where you just simply covering your flanks, people will be like, what a fucking box. And I'm like, don't know what you want from me, bud. I'm not just going to let you run in with your Centaurs and kill my Warplock Jezzails.
I just don't understand. I don't get it. Like, what am I going to do? Just leave my flanks open for you to do what you want to do? Like, of course, I'm going to play to my strength. Like, that's not going to change. Yeah. And, like, yeah, it's true. I think there's only, like, one matchup that I actually truly box in. Which is against Vampire Counts, because I have like a particular mean build that they kind of really struggle with. But yeah, I don't box in general because it's just not advantageous. Because if you lose, like if they just overhit with say anything, let's say they go 2 Harkanath Executioners on one flank, they'll just chew through everything I've got. So they're gonna punch into the pocket at some point.
Yeah.
And with a box, you can't leave any areas to cover holes that have opened up because you're holding that flank.
Yarr.
I think you'll find boxes in most lower level players rather than higher level players.
I have a strong feeling about this one, but I'm curious what you'll think. For Poland asks, would you change Spirit Leech to kill crew members instead of cannons? Like the cannon models.
I mean, that'd be way more powerful for cannons, yeah.
Yeah, I would say yes, just because it doesn't make any friggin' sense. My cannon doesn't have a soul. What are you doing? How are you breaking my cannon?
It's true. I mean, cannons do have their own health. It's true. Yeah, I would prefer that.
That'd be really funny with a hell cannon, though. Like, the ones that specifically have demon spirits. It's like, Spirit Leech works against just them because it makes sense.
Yeah, that's true.
But other than that,
These are
it's so
literal demons,
weird.
yeah.
It's like one of the dwarves that was dying from the Spirit Leech is like, I'm so weak, and he just packs his own cannon full of explosives, sets it off, and then decides to die. And it's like, why? What just happened? Anyway, I get really upset about that one. Oh, God. All right.
You are struggling there.
Yeah, you know what? The dwarves stand ever resilient, my friend. They will persevere.
Here's my question: why is your Slayer King not attacking the big thing?
I have no control over him.
Amazing.
Hey, he's hitting Kolek now. All right, if you could pick one question from chat from this whole interview so far and post it in Karaza Correct's Grudge channel, which would it be?
Ooh. I think I would ask the dwarf community what made them become a dwarf main. I'd love to know. Like, what made you become a dwarf main?
Yeah,
I'd love to know. I think I'd love to know that question.
I'd like to know that from Grombrindal.
Or what trait you have that what is your most dwarven trait? Yeah.
That'd be a good one. Okay, what do you think of the most recent dwarf update and the new playstyles of dwarves, or has it moved dwarves away from what you really wanted them to be, killing smalls?
New playstyle is great. Much better, much more interactive, much more fun. I don't think it's changed too much. It's become more heavily infantry based, for sure, with great weapons. But it's nice that you can have a little bit of a change in the meta there. Do I think it's better? Yes. Yes.
Good. Okay. What the hell? When are bolt throwers any good? How many? Dr. Jellyfish.
Ooh, I just don't think bolt throwers. They have less range, right? I think it's like 380. Am I wrong? No, 340. God damn, that's so bad.
That is really bad.
I've only ever seen, or I've only ever used them against Skaven in the WWC when I very first played to counter Warlock Giselles, and even then it wasn't really that great. Like 3 of those and 2 cannons to counter Giselles. When do I use them? Never. If I'm truthfully honest, never. I just think cannons are better in every scenario.
Probably. Is Vanguard units a good strat versus Skaven, assuming the map gives you room in the back? Hammond.
Alright, what was that question again?
Is Vanguarding on Skaven a good idea if you can get behind them on the map?
Yes, but it's not just Vanguard, it's Vanguard surround. You need to surround the Skaven at all angles. If you just Vanguard push from one front, it's not going to go great from you. You need to get in the blind spot of the Warlock Giselles, the weapon teams, and you need to be pushing from all angles.
Hammond's asking you a question in chat. What was that Damas Kron called on Amazon? Can't seem to find it.
Oh, it wasn't Damas Kron, it was just a book. It was just a book. I just bought a book. Bought a big gold book. I'll show you guys when I get it. I'll show you guys a picture.
Okay. If that was my question, I think it was a tad misunderstood. I was looking for the most grudge-worthy statement or question from the stream. So the question you thought was the most heretical. Probably Rubber Duck of War coming in here with all the lizardmen trolling.
Yeah, exactly. Why are lizardmen better than Dawi? They're just not.
They're just not.
It's just simple as that. They're just not.
Dawi don't have any unit that triggers me as much as Chameleon Skinks. So.
No, this is true. Chameleon Skinks are the bane of the Warhammer existence.
They're so annoying. All right. I'm gonna lump these two together. Artisan, Tech Priest, and Way combined ask: Do you fear Sartorial, Sigvald, or Archaon more?
Archaon the least.
Okay.
Sigvald second and the most with Sothorial. He has good missile resistance. He has some great Law Metal of Magic. Sorry, you know what I meant. Law Magic of Metal. Searing Dunes do well. Final Transmutation does well. Plague of Rust does well. He's unbreakable. He causes terror. Yeah, he's an absolute nuisance. Sigvald is fine. You can just shoot him. Just shoot Sigvald. He will go down.
All right.
And Sigvald can sometimes struggle against Thoric. I tell you what, Thoric double Thane is really strong. Actually, Thoric double Thane is really strong.
Yeah, this was the part of Artisan's question that I lumped together. He said, "Would Archaon have a place against Thoric double Thane?"
Would Archaon have a place? Archaon with double Exalted Hero, maybe.
Yeah, he's gonna need a friend because this goon squad's coming for him.
Yeah, I think still no. No, I think.
This chump's about to get beat!
Yeah, baby!
Alright, what matchups do you take? Iron Drakes, Trollhammer Torpedo, or Flame? Vengeance Bird. Eumaies said in one of his answers, Lizard Men for both. But anything else?
Trollhammer Torpedoes, what would I take them against? Lizard Men. For sure. You can justify... Oh my god, he got yeeted.
Yeah.
You can justify them against potentially vampire counts.
Mm-hmm.
What else? No, that's about it. Yep. I probably wouldn't bring him against anything else.
Muckluck asks, what are the key elements to prepare for when playing against the Beastmen, and what should you bring?
Ooh. The main elements is they're going to bring a cheap battle line that's going to be... well, they're going to bring chariots. Chariots is the main thing. Dealing with chariots is really, really important. They're going to be bringing Turox, as they always do. He's very, very strong. Of course, he does fire damage. There's a lot of fire resistance for Dawi. But Turox, as well as he's going to be bringing Manticores with Terror. Flying force, so you can't really bring gyrocopters. Like they'll bring 3 harpies, 2 manticores, so they'll dominate the sky. They'll bring on the floor 2 chariots that will just delete all of your infantry, and they're just going to go very, very wide with cheap infantry and just shut down all your range. I think the best way to prepare, or at least the best build I've ever seen, is miners with blasting charges / Norgrimling Ironbreakers with mass slayers. That's the best I've ever seen. But when it comes down to that, you need to take at least 1 piece of artillery to deal with Centaur Kite.
Speaking of mass slayers, Real Human Being and Hammond ask, is a full Slayer Rush OP? And they mean full Slayers. So,
No.
Also, is there ever a time to take 5 Slayers?
Yes, multiple times. I've never actually shared this with anybody, but I actually bring at least 5 Slayers against VP. 5 Slayers against VP. Bring Slayers, mass Slayers against Beastmen. Mass Slayers against Tomb Kings. Any other time? No, I don't think so. I think that's probably about it, really. But no, full Slayer force is a meme. Can you make it work? No. You think it do well?
No.
Yeah. Well, the thing is you've got 1 trick, and if that pony doesn't work, they bring 1 unit of kite. You're pretty done. So just no, pretty much. Sadly.
All right, Slayers, get them.
I wish you could. I wish you could, but I don't think you can.
Assuming the Cav beta goes live, when do you Vanguard and against what factions? Hammond. We talked about Skaven, but...
Oh, that's if it goes live. Sorry, when do you Vanguard? Did you say, sorry?
Yeah, when? What factions do you Vanguard against if the Cav beta goes live?
So I think only Skaven, I think, and Tomb Kings, maybe. You could maybe say Empire. I push pretty hard against... actually, Dark Elves, I push hard against Dark Elves. I Vanguard push pretty hard. I play pretty aggressive with most of my builds, I must say. But for the majority that you should, Skaven, Tomb Kings, Ushop the Great Bow Kite is real. Yeah, I think you need to push Dark Elves. Dark Elves is a horrible matchup. You need to be ready to chase pretty effectively. Other than that, I'm not too sure.
And then the last matchup question: what do you feel about the Wood Elf matchup at the moment? It feels like perception has shifted a lot for that matchup recently. What do you think caused that shift, Dector?
Heavily shifted. Dactor is correct. It used to be extremely favoured for the Dawi. It was considered the worst matchup in the game and probably almost unwinnable for the Wood Elves because they just do mass magic damage. They struggle with AP and they just have no armor. So if you go wide as the Dawi, you just win. These days, Swift Shiver Shards is one of the biggest changes you've seen in the game. They used to do magic and fire damage. They now do just fire and AP. So they do struggle to... they do much better at taking down armor, as well as going in with a bunch of new infantry as well. So you're going to be bringing in, for example, Wildwood Rangers with the AP. You've also got, like, even Blade Singers do well in that matchup. You've got a good push, Great Stag Knights with AP. The Lost Silver Knights are really strong with their Terror. Of course, they're ethereal, and Dawi struggle with magic damage. There's just a bunch of things that they've been given, and like Caster Lords in the Sky with like Soul Quench and Heal with Apotheosis is really good. And they just got mobility, which is what Dawi don't have. And if they decide to kite, it's really good. If they decide to full rush push and you've built for kite, you lose. It's a massive dice roll, and I think it's probably 60% favoured for the Wood Elves, which I think a lot of people might disagree with, but I think it's heavily Wood Elf favoured.
Yeah, I mean matchup percentages will change depending on who you're talking to. Like there are people, there are Skaven players that don't know how to handle Tomb Kings at all, and I feel like I can handle them pretty effectively. So it's just like, it's weird. Person to person, you feel differently about stuff, but
I think it depends on what level you play at, right? So as a Dawi player, that I would say my Dawi is way above any better than any of my other factions, to a point that I can play to a pretty decent level. If I play against other people that play really well, like some of the guys from ODM or RTK that play Wood Elves pretty often, they show me like the level that Wood Elves can really play at. And I think Wood Elves is the only faction in the game that has an infinite sky ceiling cap. It just has an infinite ceiling cap. The better you get, the better you will get with Wood Elves, period.
Yeah.
Same could be roughly said for Bretonia.
I would agree more on the Wood Elf side.
Yeah,
that they could kind of scale forever.
They could scale forever. Bretonia does have some limitations, but you can scale pretty high with Bretonia, which you can't do with many other factions.
All right. Belegar or the Dwarf Lord, who is better for Poland?
Period, Belegar.
Yeah, I was just looking. For 100 gold, you get a whole bunch better stats.
Yeah, it's like not even close.
His items are better.
It's one of those things, right? Revenge Incarnate is the only one you would bring from both lords. It's really, really strong. Revenge Incarnate actually makes him a bit of a beast. He'll actually beat with Revenge Incarnate. He'll actually beat Grom in combat. He gets extra weapon strength, melee attack as well, extra leadership, and I think something absurd like over 800 more health, or like maybe even 900 more health. It's just absurd. He also gets silver shield rather than bronze shield. He's just way more tanky. Yeah. 800, yeah. I knew it was a lot more. Like, it's absurd. He can get up to 110 melee attack if you bring his hammer as well, the Hammer of Angrand.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just absurd. He's just like absurdly better.
Would a generic Slayer Lord or Slayer Hero add anything useful, Hammond?
We've got one.
It's Ungrim and Gotrek?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We've got two. Would add any more be any helpful? No, because I think we've already got them, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for. Let me think about this more.
It's up to you. We're going 3 hours into this thing, so short answers are understood.
You've got Ungrim, who's unbreakable with armor, and then you've got Gotrek, and Gotrek does have his places. I won't lie to you. Not really in the Dwarven army, but certainly in like the Bretonian army or other armies like that for sure. But no, I don't think adding any more than what we've already got would change anything. No, but I like the question.
Would a generic Engineer Lord add anything useful? Hammond.
It solely depends on its items. So if you go back way back when, engineers were never really that great. I used to try and justify them, like with cannons and fire, trying to use the ballistic calibration, and then trying to use. I've always used them in the VC matchup with firing artillery, like deleting their infantry, and then using their range with AP to snipe out the Lord. But making them a legendary Lord, no. And the reason is because the runesmith sucks, pretty much. I just don't see there being any current benefit unless he gets maybe mounts that allows him to be mobile, or he gets some great items and abilities, because that's what all lords come down to for the Dawi. Because of their low mobility, they rely on their items and their abilities and their just tankiness in general.
Yeah. Hammond in the chat is correcting, saying generic non-legendary. I think Logic understood the question. I think he's just saying you already have a legendary lord that is pretty much what a generic Slayer Lord would be. Like, what would you change? You already take Ungrim almost naked.
Also, like, a generic lord that is a Slayer wouldn't make sense by law. It just wouldn't make sense. So, like, you become a Slayer because you've done something that's defiled Dwarven law, right? So you take the Slayer Oath, and you say you will die in combat to right that wrong. So the fact you'd have a Lord that is a Slayer, apart from the rare exception that is Ungrim Iron Fist, who is born into the right of being a Slayer because of his ancestry issues, makes no sense.
Yeah.
Does that answer that question?
Oh yeah. I was just acknowledging that we saw the question, but it wasn't misunderstood. It's like, I mean, what do you want that's more generic than Ungrim with no items? He's anti-large, he's armor piercing. I guess you take away his armor and make it like a 900 gold lord. It's gonna do the same thing.
Yeah, I just don't think it would offer anything.
Yeah. Because people would just take Ungrim because they want the armor. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about this, but gyrocopter, gyro bomber mounts for the engineers. That's from Hammond. I'd say hard yes.
Hard yes. The problem is sniper ability. Like, if they have like 105 speed, those things are going to be terrifying. Like, the only way they'll get utilized as a lord that has a mount is the fact that they will be OP, or they won't be used because they're bad. There will be no in between, I think.
Generic Demon Slayer Lord would have no armor and thus be faster, though, from Way. That's true. Moving the Fire Ring of Thori to a Thane, I would be very much in support of that. I think if the Thane had Fire Ring of Thori, that'd be great.
It would give more utilizations to them, but would take a lot away from the Master Engineer, for sure.
I'm kind of okay with that, because right now they have the Reload and the Flash Bomb. It sucks that they have the... Of all the Dwarven items, the only good ones are all in the Master Engineer. Like,
they are now.
Lords and Heroes, and that's why I'm like, well, spread out some of the
here's
items.
my point, and it's yet another thing is, right, we're going to take one thing that's great from one thing because it's great, and then we're going to give it to something else because it's bad to make it greater, so now we've just got two average heroes. So now we have nothing great anymore. It's just, yet again, it's recycle and repurpose. And Dawi don't get any better from it, they just get worse. Because everything else becomes more average.
I think Scab's Graith on Thanes would actually be really good, though, because Thanes don't get sniped as easily as Engineers. Engineers can get sniped. I think Scab's Graith would make Thanes like White Kings, and they would actually be really good.
I could agree with that for sure. And I think, they do have their places. Because then you can also give them the Rune of Dismay. They also have the Ironbeard's Ring. So you could maybe... It would be good. It would be good. I think if you could just give it to them, right? You could just give it to them rather than taking it away from the engineer, for sure. Yeah.
The Ironbeard's Ring, the 20% weakness to fire damage, and then combo it with your own Fire Ring of Thori, that'd be pretty funny.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what they did there with the Runesmith is they actually gave that ability to them, because they never used to have it, but now they've got the Ironbeard's Ring as well. So they, there's also that as well, so that they can do it. So... yeah, I think actually just giving it, I'd be a big advocate of just giving it to the Thane. I'd be down for that.
Hammond asked, I know you're going to be a fan of this one, a Brewmaster hero that can heal troops with beer. How bad do you want it, and what would you sell to get it?
Ooh, what a question. What a question. Yes, we will get one. When? I don't know. Definitely going to be Bugman will have that ability. What would I be willing to sell it?
Like, not from the dwarf roster. I think he means from your personal life.
Oh, damn.
Like, I'd give a kidney. I have two.
Oh, well, fair enough. Fair enough. Um, no.
CA, take my kidney.
Yeah, fine. Take my kidney.
All right. What do you want to change in the Dawi hero roster to make Thanes, runesmiths, or engineers better? Venge / for Poland. So we kind of talked about the runesmith at the very start, that he's just too expensive. But focusing in on what you and I just talked about with the master engineer and the Thane, I personally think giving the firing authority to the Thane would actually, that alone would fix him. Because that would just make him like a white king.
If we really go down to brass tacks and we think about a little bit nerdy here, but if we go into the stats of it, right, and we think about exhaustion with vigor, when we drop down with vigor, we lose melee defense, we lose melee attack, and we lose armor. Armor goes down by 75. It goes down by 25%, which is huge for heavily armored factions in the late stage. The fact he loses melee attack, which he's got none of anyway, and melee defense, and he's already 500 gold cost because he pays for armor and all of these stats, in the late stage makes Thanes really quite poor. So they need some other abilities that can help them in the roster. So he needs some extra stuff that could just make them better, or you need to make them cheaper. Because what is the difference between bringing a Thane and an Empire Captain? What is the difference? There is no difference. They're just more expensive and have more armor, which end up equaling out by the end stage of the game anyway. Like, for example, if you go with their abilities, I mean, Deadly Onslaught and Foe Seeker, nobody takes them because they're not worth it for their cost. Like, especially Deadly Onslaught is just not worth it. Rune of Dismay offers nothing apart from a slow in a 40-meter radius. I mean, sure, but it's not great. Silverhorn of Vengeance does nothing. You could maybe take the Ironbeard's Ring, negative 20% to fire weakness. Sure. That's worth 80 gold. Fine.
I think they need more self-synergy in their items. I would take the Silverhorn of Vengeance, the Rune of Dismay, just destroy them. No one's going to miss them. Give them the Fiery Ring, so that will couple with the Ironbeard's Ring nicely. And then maybe like an AoE... what you're talking about with like vigor and stuff, that could be kind of a fun, like, come on lads, like if your leadership, this is going in deep, but this is all thought theory crafting. Like if your allies around you, if their leadership is below 50% within a range, this ability starts on cooldown. You know what I mean? Like let's say it has like a 20-second cooldown. And you can pop it and give everyone around you like 20% vigor and call it like second wind or something. And it's only recharging if your units around you are kind of struggling. That could be interesting and thematic if it's cheap enough.
I think, well, a lot of dwarfs don't like to run anyway. So I think there should be a lot of abilities in the game lore-wise that if they are standing and fighting, they get like buffs, which is kind of like what you're saying as well. Well, kind of the opposite, but... yeah, I think some things that will like they need more synergy. It needs more synergy. A lot of it just doesn't make sense. I can see why they've given the Ironbeard's Ring to the Runesmith, and that is solely because of the Rune of Wrath and Ruin, because it does fire damage. So essentially, that does more damage, if you were. So actually bringing him with a fiery ring, and then bringing him with just Rune of Wrath and Ruin can actually be quite strong. But then that's going to cost you 770 gold. I just think all of the heroes are way too expensive. They downtrade in the later stages of the game for their cost. The only one that's worth it is the Master Engineer with unlimited flash bombs and restock. Restock as an ability that if we make him naked, I don't know how much he costs actually. 80 gold. I mean, 80 gold, if you think about it, just on replenishing ammunition will pay for itself 3-4 fold. Just in ammunition cost. So it's difficult, really. I think Flash Bomb and Restock are so great for the Master Engineer, and they tie in so well with his character, and they have such a benefit map-wide for the roster of the Dawi, that it's such a great advantage to take them. You don't have that for either of the other two. Like if you want a runesmith, you might as well just take a rune lord. If you want a rune lord, you might as well just take Thoric Ironbrow. It's just an upgrade every time. So like there's just no point. But yeah, I think they need to change it. You know, like if you are gonna have the Thane with like the Rune of Dismay, okay, but 10% doesn't do much. 10% is just not enough for Dawi.
No. Because if you're like, oh, 76 speed, well now you're 69 speed. All right, you still have 32, so you're not catching me, Stunty. Like...
Exactly. And like, what's charge bonus going to do? Like, I don't know. I just think Silverhorn Vengeance, remove the Rune of Dismay, put in some other abilities that, you know, can really buff the Thane. Even put some items that are going to buff his attacks or something. Give him, like, a Sword of Anti-Heroes that makes him do fire damage that goes with his Ironbeard's Rain that gives him AP. Because he doesn't even have AP. He doesn't have Anti-Infantry. He doesn't have Anti-Large. He's just very, very basic.
He is a generic boy.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think there just needs to be some more synergy. But I think, like, you know, yeah, I think Sword of Anti-Heroes would be good. Tormentor Sword used to be very strong on them, but of course that got removed.
Oh yeah, that would be nuts.
Yeah, that would be nuts.
Not in a bad...
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily in a bad way. It's just Tormentor Sword is pretty nuts. If you can... Like, you occasionally run into it on a really underused lord or something, and you're like, oh, you have Tormentor Sword. I might consider taking you, all because you saw that item.
I mean, let's compare him to the Empire, right? So if we compare Thane to an Empire captain, make him naked. Alright, so the main gimmick about the whole Empire captain, right, is you hold the line. You know, melee defense and leadership and melee defense. That could be quite good for the dwarves. That might actually be a bit OP, to be honest. But like he's 350 gold cost. And what's the difference here we got in stats? Probably not huge. Reduction in armor, reduction in melee defense are the notable ones, and weapon strength is really no change. Other than that, it's pretty much exactly the same. A little bit less armor, a little bit less melee defense. Yeah, maybe it is worth the 150 gold cost, but they serve the same purpose, which is pretty much nothing. You don't bring either of them because they don't offer anything outside of anything else. Like, why would you take an Empire Captain when you could take a Warrior Priest that comes with Soulfire and comes with melee attack buffs and damage resistance buffs?
Yeah, I just realized giving Thane's ITP is probably a big step in the right direction.
Dude, there is... right, big thing for me. ITP needs to be on specific units, right? So, I think there's some ridiculous ones like the Dark Elves, I think. Let me have a look here. Like, even the Dark Elves, if you're being like Blackguard and Agron, I'm pretty sure Blackguard and Agron don't even have ITP.
They do. The Hargonath Executioners don't.
Oh, do they? Oh, they do, yeah. Hargonaths don't... I mean, they do get Murderous Mastery, right? So, obviously, it is a balancing mechanic. But, like, there's a lot of elite infantry out there. So, if we take Chaos Warriors, right? Take Chosen, they don't have ITP.
Oh yeah, Chosen don't. That's always really funny to me.
You go to the like. There's some other stupid things as well. Like if you go to the Wood Elves, like War Dancers have got ITP. They cost 800 and they have ITP. Wildwood Rangers have ITP. No idea why they have ITP. They just have it because pretty much all of their infantry has ITP, which makes no sense to me. Or even if you go to Bretonnia and you take the Fae causes fear on foot. Why? She's a princess. Like
the Star Chamber Guardians do not.
Nope. There is a lot of elite infantry out there that does not. And like the Dawi is the most shocking one of all of them. The Dawi that are the most known for not running away with the highest leadership and armor in the game. And you've got the King's Guard, the Hammers, that will run away to terror. It doesn't make sense. So some changes like that, you know, Thanes would never run. Thanes would just never ever run. They would die before running, I think.
I like how the Star Chamber Guardians, the Keepers of the Flame, Phoenix Guard, and a basic unit of Black Orcs walk into a bar, and the basic unit of Black Orcs sits there while the other two run away.
100%, man. And that's why actually like Black Orcs are low-key better than people think they are, right? The only thing that they really miss is shields. Right?
Yeah.
It's the same argument. Like, so there's a lot of units in the game. So another example is Foot Squires. You know, Foot Squires pay for a lot of things that they really don't get any benefit out of. So... you know, anti-infantry and armor piercing, they pay a lot for it. And they just struggle against things that have armor. And they're good at fighting back. Or, like, armor and high melee defense is something they really struggle with. Like, Foot Squires are just garbage against Longbeards. They're just garbage. They're not good. But they're perfectly designed to deal with them. Or at least that's the way they should be. You know, they're anti-infantry, they're damage dealers, they have great armor piercing. They should destroy them. They're perfectly designed. But
and then they just don't.
And like Beast Slayers of Baston, you know, anti-large armor piercing halberds, garbage.
Those guys always underperform.
Yeah, don't know why. But then you can bring units, for example, the Holy Wardens of Las Mistletoe, incredible unit, great leadership, frenzy, magic fire damage. They just hold. They just hold. The only thing they struggle against is like magic, right? There's a lot of things about the Dawi that need to change, like ITP on the Thanes. Like, I think if you just give Thane ITP, yeah, straight up, he instantly becomes valuable.
Yeah, because their leadership, like, it's 70, but for a dwarf, that's a little low, and they tear her out so often.
I mean, the Master Engineer's got more leadership.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. It's not particularly worth it. You know, there's some have low leadership, like Rune Lords have low leadership. You know, like one of the characters I bring up quite a bit is we go to Warriors of Chaos. The most overpowered lord in the game by far is Sigvald. Like, Sigvald is just disgusting. The fact the man has 100 leadership without being unbreakable is just absurd. It just makes no sense to me. He also has Perfect Vigor, which is way more powerful than I think people realise. He has ITP, he can have regen, he has Strider, which is actually even more important than people think. He has Expert Charge Defense, he also causes Encourage, he has Missile Resistance, the Silver Shield, great armor, brilliant melee stats, great weapon strength. He is just good all over the board. Like, he just doesn't have a weakness, apart from that he's a Foot Lord. But even then, he's not a slow Foot Lord, he's got 40 speed.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you compare Sigvald, even with if you just make him naked, right, he's still a great lord at 1,050 gold cost. There are not many lords that could beat him for 1,050 gold cost. Yeah, so you saw that Foot Squires just lose, and it's because of melee defense, right? Melee defense, as it increases, exponentially does better than melee attack. That's why things like Foot Squires just suck. And that's why Longbeards are probably the most cost-efficient infantry in the game, because they sit around about the right level that you would expect, and they also have ITP. That's one of the units that dwarves really have that's strong for them.
Yeah, Longbeards are pretty good, which is good. I mean they should be. Longbeards are.
I mean, they should have ITP, right? But the fact that they have ITP and others don't, it's a bit weird. But
that implies that a Thane is not a Longbeard.
Not all Thanes are old, to be fair.
I mean, still.
I know. I mean, if you really want to talk about, like, messed up, you just got to go to Bretonnia, right? And you just go, oh, look, they've got these elite knights you might see once in your life, and they've got a squadron of 45 of them.
Oh, yeah, the Grail Knights.
Mm-hmm.
Grail Knights. Oh, boy. We've gone 3 hours.
There's a few things you could change, right? And, you know, I think, like, for example, Norgrilling Ironbreakers, they're great. Longbeards are great. Dwarf Warriors are great. They've got some great infantry options. I think Slayers are good. Of course, they have their weaknesses, but of course they have their strengths. But I think, you know, a lot of the answers to Dawi, and the reason why people get frustrated with them, is because of their duration and how quite difficult it can be to play against them. So the simple answer for most people is, just nerf all their good stuff. I'm like, great. You just make Dawi crap then. Because they have such large weaknesses. And that just kind of seems to be the pattern.
Yep. Give them Cav, though. Give them Cav. You want some?
Yeah.
You want some Dawi Slayers riding Slayers?
Like Noblars and Noblars, right?
Yeah. All right.
We have gyrocopters and stuff, right? But yeah.
Lords, the most niche and versatile units. Should dwarf warriors get silver shields? Would it even help for Poland and Kung Lao?
100% yes. They should have silver shields, and 100% yes, it would help.
Really? I was going to say they should because of just they should, but I didn't think it would help that much.
Artillery skirmishes.
Oh, I suppose.
So if you take miners, for example, miners do not trade well into, for example, wood elves.
Yeah.
But Longbeards and Dwarf Warriors do.
Silver shields.
I think for sure Silver Shield should be on the Ironbreakers, but obviously it's a balancing mechanic at the same time.
Should gyrocopters and gyrobombers get 15% missile resist for Poland? No. No, they're so fucking hard to kill.
They've already got magic resistance, right? So
Yeah.
I think they should have a little bit more health. I think just a little bit. They can get very easy, like one miss micro and they're done. One miss micro and they're done.
Yeah.
They are very glass cannon, even though they have 100 armor. And Spirit Leech just dominates them as well. Spirit Leech just finishes them off. That's something you can't escape.
Yeah.
You can't escape Spirit Leech.
But as far as missiles go, I don't think so. Because so many missiles miss them already.
You know, if you top them up to say 3,000, give them an extra 200 health, and gives them an extra about just a little bit more would be nice. I think just top them up, just a little bit more. Just maybe 5 to 10% would be quite nice. But other than that, I think generically they're pretty balanced. I mean, I only bring brimstone guns. I don't even bring the normal gyrocopters. I just don't think they're that good, to be honest.
Yeah. What is the most niche and most versatile unit on the roster? Real human being. I mean, versatile's got to be Longbeards, right?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. They're the most versatile.
Everybody loves
Longbeards. What is the most niche? Master Engineer, I think. It's not niche though, is it? So, what's the most niche and versatile? Alpha Raiders.
Alpha Raiders? Yeah, they are really good when they're good.
They're niche, but they're very good. Because you can always get value out of their multiple Ulthwar. They have great AP and they can fight pretty well in melee combat, surprisingly. Good leadership, they're just generally pretty good.
Would you give Giant Slayers 20 or 10 physical resistance to make them more playable?
Well, normal Slayers don't. It's only the Dragonbacks that get physical resistance. Because that's part of their whole gimmick, right? How could you justify those? The question. Like, as much as like balancing mechanics, you also have to have to be lore friendly, right? So they got extra health. If that means anything. You could justify it. I just say give them more health. I don't think added physical resistance, because then physical resistance is also a different multiplier, right? It's not the same. It's not the same as just adding more melee defense or adding more health. Like, it's a multiplier for a different stat. So mathematically, it's just different. It's not the same. So adding 20% physical resistance is not the same as just adding armor or just adding more health. It's not the same. So I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think 10 and 20% physical resistance is actually a lot more than people think.
Yeah. Lords and Heroes on Shield Bearer or Oathstone mounts. Legendary Lords 2. It's lore friendly, don't put me in the book, says Hammond.
Hammond, you're already in the book, don't worry about it.
Got it.
Earthstone would be good, but of course they can't move from the Earthstone. So if the opponent just walks away from the Earthstone, then your Earthstone's a bit pointless. Unless you can force that they come to you, of course, but then you need artillery to do that. Shield mount. I mean, I kind of guess you've already really. It's not really like that, but I guess you got that for Thorgrim and Thoric and Rune Lords. But yeah, shield mount could be cool. Yeah, 100%. Not necessary, but it'd certainly be fun.
Top 3 worst Dwarf Lords could be generic or legendary for multiplayer. Is there Dawi, Tretch, Hammond / Cyrus? I mean, we already covered that a bit. Basic Dwarf Lord sucks. Grombrindle sucks, and the Rune Lord sucks.
Yep. Bang bang bang.
Bang bang bang.
Not out of the park.
Runes on artillery like Thoric's campaign, stand campaign, or bring it to multiplayer, Hammond? I don't know anything about that, so that's all you.
Runes on any units would be great. Okay. Of course, you've got to pay for those runes.
What kind of milk do you drink before a big game? Strawberry, chocolate, double chocolate, or strawberry and banana? Hammond.
It's got to be strawberry. It's got to be strawberry, man.
All right.
Everything other than strawberry, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
More of a vanilla milk person.
Yeah, fair enough. I can see that, but it's got to be strawberry.
Yes. Q, do Dawi just put all newborn in the book and make things easier?
Do Dawi just put all newborn in the book to make things easier? I think Dawi, like, they're like pity newborns, right? Mm-hmm. Like I think in general, even in lore, I think Dawi just think that humans are cute. is essentially the idea. They're like, they're just squishy humans. They're cute. You know, leave them. They're new. They'll learn.
All right, dude. We're reaching the finish line. We've entered the full meme questions, meaning we can just rock through them.
Nice. I like it. Let's do this.
VM Tank asks, for what do Dawi even need legs? You can just sit in corners.
I agree. Master Corner Camper would say yes.
I agree.
I love it.
Venge, how much do you hate Skaven?
Do you know what? Skaven are actually kind of cool. I love their mechanics, but playing against them, yeah, they're not fun.
Yeah. Alright. Should CA be held accountable for making Slayers appeal to the male fantasy in video games? Real human being.
Wait, what?
CA made Slayers too sexy, bro.
I mean, straight up. They got big beards. I wish Giant Slayers had bigger beards, but yeah, 100%, man. They are. I mean, if I had a mohole like that with a beard, I'm sure I would be getting it every day. Yeah, for sure.
They've got huge tracts of land.
Look at those beards, man. Look at those beards.
How many grudges versus elves are there in the Great Book, Venge?
Officially, I have no idea, but I know there's a lot. Especially from the High Elves. Actually, there's a lot from the Dark Elves as well, actually.
The Phoenix King asked, how much pain can I cause you with this picture? And for reference, it was a white lion chariot.
Oh, lots.
Katam asks, is playing dwarves how dwarf mains externalize the deep-seated insecurities and not living up to the high expectations of their parents?
That's a great question. That is a great question. The answer is no, but I love it.
By the way, side note, you recommended Katam for the Norska interview, and he crushed it.
Yeah. Katam's cool, man. Katam's cool. He's a great Norscan player.
Last Lordinarian, I believe I said your name roughly correctly, asked about the flame cannons. We did answer that before, but mostly their range is far too short. They can get outranged by even a lot of archers.
They get outranged by Worn-Up Giselles, they get outranged by your Ushoptic Greatbow, Bone Giants, pretty much any other artillery in the game. Stalked units can wreck them as well. Yeah. I mean, if you think about 190 meters of range on, like, Weight Watchers, like, there's no way you're going to be 200 meters of range away from your cannon as the Dawi. That's just throwing a 1300 cannon down the drain.
Mm-hmm. At what point did you decide you didn't want to micro units to win battles anymore, Malverde?
Yeah, since I realized I wasn't good. So I thought, listen, the fewer clicks I can make, the better.
As opposed to Beastmen, who did the same thing, but you just click forwards and then you take your hands off the keyboard.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Listen, guys, just go. I'll catch you when you win.
Listen, you come to me. We'll fight it out when you get here.
Zero asks, do dwarves become chaos warriors when they grow up?
Well, they're so full of vengeance they become evil. Nah, I don't know. I think dwarves are way too pure-hearted, right? In reality, like, they grumble, but they grumble for the right reasons.
Yes. I alluded to this question earlier, but Hammond and Cyrus asked, should there be a Dawi Cav unit that is Slayers riding Slayers? Like Night Goblin Squig Hoppers, but just 2 Slayers.
I love it, yes. I actually want a Slayer riding a Giant Slayer.
And Venge, this isn't a question, I'm just reading the chat. Venge, wow, he's going through every question ever asked. Yeah, that is the bit. That is the selling point of this whole content piece, is you can ask anything.
You can ask anything, yeah, I don't mind. Ask me any question you like.
F&G, how do dwarves not drown/suffocate in the mountain snow?
That's a good question. More the question is, how do Slayers not freeze? Or how do they deal with frostbite, I guess. But
they're too angry to breathe.
Yeah, they're grumbling too hard, I guess.
They never stop to take a breath. They're just plowing through the snow, just grumbling.
They're so red with anger, they burn the snow away.
That's good.
They melt the snow.
What other units do dwarves load into the Goblobber when goblins are unavailable due to supply chain issues? F&G.
Oh, it's got to be like Skaven, right?
It's got to be like Skaven.
Skaven slaves and
grudge breakers.
Other little pests. I don't know. Yeah.
Oathbreakers. Sorry. Hammond asks, a Longbeard riding a longboard living in Long Beach, California, born on Long Island, New York. Is that dwarf cavalry?
It might as well be, because it ain't coming here, so might as well be.
Yeah. Favorite ride for a dwarf at the fair? Is it the bumper cars or the Ferris wheel? Flying taco.
Probably bumper cars, right? They got to get that vengeance out somehow. They got to feel, they got to drive into something and go, yes, vengeance, right?
They actually would love that. They would love bumper cars.
They would love bumper cars, man. They would love it.
How does it feel being so stunty and grunty? Muckluck.
Yeah, pretty close to home, so, pretty good.
When people say the Dawi are thick-headed, do they mean literally, figuratively, or both? Muckluck.
Bit of both sometimes. These guys are known for being stubborn. They don't like change. So yeah, I guess a bit of both. a lot of the dwarfs in lore actually don't like the fact that they've got like guns. They don't like gunpowder. They don't trust it.
Yeah. Can Dawi swim? Hank Cyrus.
If they don't have their arm on, yes.
Cyrus also asks, what do you think of the Human Boy Yes profile picture? Which, for anybody who doesn't know, is an anime girl, because I lost... Well, I didn't lose. The winner of one of my events got to pick my profile picture, and they picked an anime girl.
I love it. I mean, that is the true picture of the esports scene, right?
Perfect. My Discord has 12 different variants of my name in various people. Like, Hammond is not RTK Human Boy, no. So who is the coolest Human Boy variant? Real human being.
Oh, I haven't been able to see all of them.
I have to... Personal recommendation, Dr. Jellyfish. He put my entire name backwards, and it's like next level. It gives me a headache looking at it.
I love it. We'll go with that. I love that.
That's a super good one. Muckluck asks, how does it feel being second to Vampire Coast?
The same as Lizardmen, really. We're just not. That's the thing. I think that Vampire Coast are just, they've come back to life in the hopes to be Dawi, and they're miserable because they're not. And they're just trying to copy us. They're trying to out gunpowder, and they just don't do well.
Mm-hmm. They also aren't as... They have lower leadership. They just don't know how to run away. They just crumble.
It's true. To be fair, they don't run away, so I guess they are doing something wrong.
Should rule sets ban all 360 shooting units? If not, why are you not a true Dawi main? Butcherbird.
I mean, I'm down for it, right?
Ban them all.
To be fair, I've been grudging about this for a while. No, I think that... yeah, just ban them all. Ban them all. You can only bring flying shooting units. Try out.
I will ask the next question before answering that thing in chat. What happens when the Great Book of Grudges gets full? And then also, what happens if it gets stolen? Pugnabone asks both.
If it gets stolen, it's war. And if it gets full, we bring the next one in. There's many full books of grudges. And actually, there's actually many books of grudges, actually. There's not just the one. The Damask Coran is one of many books.
I'm being asked right now, actually something I should probably just say out loud. Contende. I'll mark this as unread so I can come back to it later. Anyway, A asterisk S and then a bunch of other letters. How do people find practice partners on my Discord? Usually I don't, and why I'm even bringing this up is because Logic's here. He seems to have it covered pretty well, and there's already a million Discords in this community, so I don't really want to split up the scene more. So Logic, you want to plug like the short beards and stuff?
Oh yeah, I can do. I appreciate that. So anyone of you that haven't heard of myself, obviously as a YouTuber or been on my Discord, I do a short beard league and tournaments. Very quick explanation is you join up and play against me or one of the admins. We give you a ranking depending on the rest of the new players that are joining. You join there, and the top two in each league get promoted into the top of the league above. It goes a bit like a conveyor belt to the top, where you get promoted into the you kind of leave the short bid. So essentially, you're good enough to play in other tournaments and leagues. The leagues run same to the WWC, which is the main event we have here for Warhammer. and the tournaments that run at the end of each season run the same as pretty much every other tournament in the scene. So it gives you all the tools you need to kind of play in the wider community, and you play against other brand new players, so you're not getting beat every single time. It's going to be some nice, good, close games.
Yeah. And Logic's server always has people playing in it. They're always friendly, and that kind of thing. And like I said, if like I could physically do that in my Discord, I think like it would just split up the player base, and that'd be harder to find. Because if someone's not in both Discords, then you're just splitting up the people. It's better just to be like, Logic's Discord's got that covered. Just go there, play with friendly people.
Yeah, and also and Ladder's got that as well, and I think that both are different, but both offer similar ideas. And I think that for you host tournaments all the time, big fun ones as well. So you do your own thing that's different to what everybody else does, which is good.
Yeah. Yes. All right, we'll polish off the questions. I just saw that. I'm like, this would be a good opportunity to plug that. Oh, I love this question. Jeremy asks, your 2 dwarven daughters run off and elope. Which would you prefer they elope with? A high elf noble and a chaos spawn? A goblin and a troll? A dark elf and a Bretonnian peasant? Or a chaos dwarf and an ogre?
It'll be option 3, I think.
Dark elf and a peasant? Yeah.
At least the peasant's going to be like, all right, I guess.
Yeah, and like probably if your daughter is dwarven, which I would assume, they're murder knights where they go around killing everybody. You should probably kick a bunch of ass. Dwarves can 1v1 a dark elf.
Pretty comfortably, yeah.
Yeah, like she'll hold her own. Chasing Rainbows, Book of Grudges, Volume 2, ?
Hopefully.
When the other one remains full, so I don't know how Thorgrim keeps adding stuff.
This is some magical element to it, right, I think.
Yeah. Oh, Cyrus asked that, actually. How do they write in their book? With a piece of coal or anything else? Is there one book that the kings have, or do they each clan have their own?
Each clan king has his own book of grudges. Yes. They write them in using ink like everybody else. And I think in general in lore, the more grudges you've got as a clan, the more unrest you'll have within your kingdom.
Top 5 grudges ranked F and G.
The War of Vengeance.
War
1,
of
2,
Vengeance.
3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a good answer. What is love, real human being?
What is love? Realizing that you love Dawi, realizing that they're the best faction in the game, and that you should definitely be trying them out on multiplayer and single player.
All right.
That's when you know you found love.
I think he wanted you to say, "Baby, don't hurt me. Baby, don't hurt me no more." But yeah. Your answer was good too. He asked that to me every single interview.
Does he? I love it.
Why do you like bearded women, Mukluk?
I actually don't believe any of the dwarven women are bearded, but I don't answer that one. Trying to think of some jokey way of getting around that. Well, I mean, I like bearded men, so why wouldn't I like bearded women?
Because they're magnificent.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you truly considered evolutionarily advantaged with such short legs, Mukluk?
I mean, we're exponentially stronger, so I'll take short legs for exponential strength.
Also, have you ever tried knocking them down? It's possible.
Exactly.
How do you keep yourself from falling asleep? Do you hate yourself? Papa Palpatine and Butcherbird.
What's that about?
Dwarves.
Oh.
It implies your playstyle is boring.
Oh, I see what you mean. No, I don't think Dwarf's playstyle is boring, to be fair. I don't. I think there are other playstyles that are actually less interesting.
I could agree with that.
But to be fair, but yeah.
There are certain dwarf matchups I think are boring as dirt, but that's not the dwarves' fault.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's 100%. But I think that's because other factions have to play like that to play the dwarves.
Yeah, that's true. Like a lot of vampire count matchups can be boring as dirt in my opinion because you're just waiting. But it's like, I mean, they're doing what they need to win.
Yep. It also depends, right? There's a whole level that I'm trying to get the community to understand between competition and fun. Competition and fun do not go hand in hand. Like at a level of competition, if you're going to try and win a competition, not all games are going to be fun. Sometimes they'll be fun. Sometimes they'll be really explosive. but other times it's going to be an enemy necessary to win, regardless of whether you find that fun as a viewer or not.
If you've ever played Void Lulls, there you go.
Well, I mean, the man can play extremely well. He is a great competitor. He will do anything to win, and that shows because he's very, very competitive, and he certainly wins a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, some games can certainly be very boring when it comes down to Spirit Kite, or it comes down to like Wood Elves and Dawi can be pretty boring when it comes down to just the kite off, or same with Chaos against Wood Elves. You know, there are a lot of boring matchups.
Malverde asks, why play Dawi when Skaven exist? We are just better. It's just a better faction. Do you like the challenge, or what is it? Cause
yeah, it's all about the challenge.
Take the free wins, play Skaven, baby.
But also, you don't have the beards. You know what I mean?
Our beards are so long, they cover our bodies.
Our beards are so long, we have to tuck them in our belts.
All right. Is it true that dwarves are distantly related to the potato? That would explain their susceptibility to fungal blights, aka greenskins. Loopy.
What was that first bit?
Are dwarves related to potatoes because fungus beats them? Greenskins are the fungus.
Oh, do they beat them? In lore? I can't remember.
In lore? No, never.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure in lore, unless Grimgor turns up, they pretty much always lose. I think, I'm just trying to think if there's any time they win. Not really. I think even in game now it's pretty even. So, I don't know. I think Loopy's being a bit suspect with these questions, mate. Kung
Lao asks, how many grudges are recorded in this stream? How many grudges have you gotten since the 3 hours ago this stream?
I've written down 4 names so far.
Uh-oh. All right, 2 left. This one's for me. You're not even going to get it. It's an inside joke. I'm sorry about that. If there was a piece of burnt toast between 2 gutter slates, would you eat it? From Jeremy. Yes, I would, Jeremy. I would eat it every single time.
God damn it. I don't think I know. I don't think I want to know.
It's from the Jeopardy stream.
All right, okay.
Last thing, and this one's always from Jeremy. Every interview he asks who he's supposed to simp for in a certain roster. So far, he has Faye Enchantress, Ariel, Celestra Deerfawn, Isabella von Karstein, whatever's under Gelt Mask, the River Troll Hag, Icket Claw, and the Frostworm. But not Khalid or Ilariel. Who or what on the Dawi roster is he supposed to simp for?
Who are you meant to simp for? That is a good question. I think you need to simp for Thorgrim Grudgebearer.
Thorgrim Grudgebearer.
Yes, Thorgrim, the High King.
I mean, he already has 4 simps holding up his throne, so you're in good company.
Indeed.
Oh, God. All right, you powered through it. That was a 3.5-hour interview. I think that's our longest interview, but if it's not our longest interview, it's the longest time a guest has stayed, because sometimes the guest leaves and I power through those meme questions alone.
I accidentally stayed so long, I actually didn't put any content up.
Well, shit.
It's all right. I actually totally forgot because I really enjoyed this. So thank you very much for having me.
Yes, we plugged you at the very start and a little bit there with that Discord, but you want to give your blurb anyway, just in case anybody missed it.
Well, firstly, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. Of course, I do my own Twitch and YouTube, predominantly YouTube, but you guys can check me out. I'd love to do some more content with you guys, with the community, with Human Boy and the rest, and super happy for Warhammer 3. So if you guys are going to stick around with both of us.
Yes, indeed. God, I wish Warhammer 3 would get here.
Same. And guys, don't give up on Warhammer 2. It's so great right now. It's so great. It's really, really enjoyable to play at the moment.
It is. I can also understand not wanting to come back because there's games in my past that people say are really good, and every time Team Fortress 2, perfect example. Every time I log on, I'm like, this game was so fun. You play like maybe 30 minutes, then you're like, I'm still burnt out. I played too much.
And there's a couple of games that me and Ducky and a few others are playing on Twitch as well. Just having some fun, and I love Warhammer. Warhammer will always be my main game, and I think that although we've seen a lot of this from Warhammer 2, and we know we're all waiting and taking a break for Warhammer 3, but don't give up on us. It is coming. It is going to be fun. We are playing other games as well on the side and having a great time. Just remember that there's going to be some great content coming still forward from Warhammer 2.
Yes. Yes, and hopefully siege battles will be multiplayer viable, because I love sieges.
I think so too. I think they will be, yes.
Yeah. Sieges with people. With the AI, boring as dirt. All right.
Yes.
Logic, you have a great night. Hopefully put up some content or get some sleep. And that's it for us today. Goodbye.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for having me. Take care.
All right, I'm going to end the stream. Y'all take care.